last night as the Seas took down the Jazz 129-119 in Utah. Jaylen Brown had 23 points and 10 assists. Derek White added 27 points and 7 blocks as Boston ended 2025 on a high note. Seas will be back on the floor New Year's Day night in Sacramento to face the Kings. Patriots receiver Stefon Diggs was charged on Tuesday with felony strangulation or suffocation and misdemeanor assault and battery stemming from an incident on December 2nd. The Patriots have released a statement in which they stated, quote, "The New England Patriots are aware of the accusations that have been made regarding Stefon Diggs. Stefon has informed the organization that he categorically denies the allegations. We support Stefon," close quote. Meanwhile, in other news involving the Diggs family, Stefon's brother, Trayvon Diggs, was released by the Dallas Cowboys on Tuesday. The two-time Pro Bowl cornerback will be a free agent if he isn't claimed off waivers. And the college football playoff resumes tonight with Miami taking on Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. Ohio State is a 9.5-point favorite. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by L&F Electrical Services, a veteran-owned full-service electrical and HVAC company. Don't get sparked with high prices. Call 844-LF-WIRES or visit lfelectricalservice.com. I'm Mark Dondero for Boston's Home for Sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub. Next update about 30 minutes.
If you've got the app, you've got Toucher and Hardy to wake you up no matter where you are.
Or who may or may not have been to jail.
Get the app. The 98.5 The Sports Hub app.
Ladies and gentlemen, I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Toucher
You might hate me, but you're listening.
and Hardy
Don't bother me. I'm at the Pickle Palace.
on 98.5.
I know what I'm capable of.
He said something about peanut butter, right?
Yeah. Boning, baby. Make America nut again.
That's gross. That's disgusting.
Let's talk about cheese.
What are you going to have for lunch?
I was at dinner with my wife and a friend.
Kitty, kitty, pussy, kitty, kitty, kitty. Flap, flap, flap.
Shut up, I'm trying to talk to Paul.
Toucher and Hardy
Good luck trying to put your finger in it when there's a million holes.
on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Let's go.
Toucher and Hardy. 98.5 The Sports Hub. Live from the Town Fair Tire Studio and on YouTube. Please subscribe, like, click, all of the above. Mark Dondero, Andrew Callahan. Once again on New Year's Eve, taking you home for another year. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning. There's no way that people remember, but we had a great time last year. We built out a Boston sports New Year's party.
Yep.
Bringing in players, old coaches, old friends, owners, assigning them to places at the house party. I got a couple new ones, which we can jump into first, but I got to tell you that, off the top, just perfect. I thought Fred had joined us somehow. Just his voice, his disembodied voice was hanging out.
So I've tried to, study the show. It's a little different, this show, as you know, than some of the other ones that I'm on. I the other day, I forget if I talked about this on the air with Rochi.
This was off air.
It was off air. I was like, let me just listen to an old episode real quick, just to get a little bit more of the tempo and how they do things. And I got one, I picked one episode. I hear the open, they get into the show, and then immediately it goes towards ass play. That was the first topic. So I'm like, all right. So
So what do you got on ass play?
No, I mean
Nothing?
I mean, we could go that way. If you are into that, I support you. So
It's very brave of you.
With your woman. I'll just put it that way. But listen, New Year's Eve is always something I struggle with. And it's just like a holiday that I really want to take advantage of. I guess that's the way to put it. And I just always fail. I feel like I don't take advantage of it well enough every single year. Either I'll have a big idea or big expectations, and I just can't get it to the place I want to get it to. I don't know why that is.
We talked about this, and I think growing up is realizing that New Year's is overrated because it's the one holiday that comes with the same expectation when you're in your teens and early 20s. You go out, you find a bar, you spend more money, you stay up till midnight, you count down, you kiss somebody, and then it ends up being a party like the rest of the night. But if that party is not the party of the year as you celebrate the arrival of a new year, it's a letdown, which those expectations are ridiculous. I have found now coming back around to my early 30s, like maybe it's not so overrated. Because the best New Year's I had were just house parties.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like you would have
house parties with other
no,
people?
no, just one good one.
Okay.
And I had a couple years where I would travel to go see the Rose Bowl, and I had a friend who lived in San Diego, and initially it was kind of a bucket list item, and then turns out the next year I was covering one, and the year after that I covered a Fiesta Bowl, and just flew up to San Diego, and we drove up to LA the next day. I went to the Rose Bowl anyway. But those house parties that I would go to where my friend lived in San Diego, knew him, a couple other people, nobody else, had the best time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's like the California low-key part, but the bottom line is it does not have to be a big spectacle. The spectacle's on TV. It's that giant ball that drops. Whatever you want to do around that is fine. Just have a good time.
And I'm for that. We were kind of throwing around perfect, ideal scenarios on New Year's Eve. For the most part, I enjoy staying home, and not even a house party, just staying home. Movie, falling asleep, a good football. Now the college football playoff.
Yes.
I probably mentioned this to you last year, but one of my highlights of New Year's Eve, at least over the course of the last few years, as I've identified the trend, is it's usually the first time that I'll see a Masters commercial. And I look forward to that. It's coming in April. It's Scott Van Pelt or somebody that it'll pop on during the football game or so, and I look forward to that. Either that or, if I can find a situation where I don't know what the kids are doing. We've had a couple New Year's Eves where it's just a movie with the kids. I think a couple years ago we watched the movie Good Burger. It's an old movie. Keenan and Kel, for those that remember that type of television.
Oh, that's not that old.
Okay. No. This was the original Good Burger that came out in like the 90s. It was old. This one was old. But there's a newer one.
I'm sorry, you can't tell me that the 90s are old.
Right,
that hurt. That injures me.
Yeah, well,
it's tough.
Okay. I was trying to. That makes me feel better.
I'm thinking of like Good Burger was the sequel to Gone with the Wind old.
Okay.
Like I was like, I can't imagine why they call a movie back then Good Burger, but I hear you. Did the kids like it?
By the way,
it's obviously old to them.
You have just one child, younger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Baby. My kids, 11 and 8, and I'll tell you what, and I don't understand the phenomenon. They love some of these 90s movies I've exposed them to. They love them.
It's a good parent right there.
I can't believe how much they enjoy. So some of the main ones, Mighty Ducks. Okay, they love that one, but I expected them to kind of love that one. Rookie of the Year. You know which one my daughter put on over and over and over again?
Dude, Where's My Car?
Do you remember the movie? No, I haven't exposed her to that one yet. Do you remember the movie Heavyweights? It was kids at a fat camp.
I never saw it, but
okay.
I know of the movie.
It was all those same people. A lot of them from Mighty Ducks, but the same group. It was the Keenan. Keenan was in. I think Keenan Thompson was in that movie.
Ben Stiller,
Ben Stiller was
Judd
unbelievable.
Apatow.
Yes. She watched that movie over and over and over. Heavyweights. I don't know why, but
the 90s were still very rich on like slapstick comedy, and I think that kind of like little kids can identify with that. Like, there's really nothing they need to understand. It's like, oh, the guy fell down and they played a fart noise. It's funny.
I just don't remember, and I know technology evolved and all those things. I just don't remember in the 90s when I was a kid watching and getting all into movies from the 60s. Now, maybe if I was exposed to them, that might have happened, but it did not happen.
So I think these movies were from the 70s, but my dad turned us on to the Pink Panther movies, like the old Inspector Clouseau. I'm not talking Steve Martin remake, 2010 or maybe late 2000s. Yeah. And that, talk about slapstick. Like that's the whole origin of that type of comedy, in addition to the doofus detective who finally gets through. Great performances by Peter Sellers, classic stuff. So we were hooked on that. And then you get a taste of, as I have many times since, Dumb and Dumber. And it's just kind of, I still have a great affinity for, the Pink Panther. But once your level of humor, your sense of humor hits 13 years old, for me at least, it hasn't really grown that much further. So I'm just hitting the same easy button.
That was the original brain rot, though, Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, yeah.
The scene in the bathroom.
I mean, every scene. Most quotable movie I think I've ever come across. So, look, if I'm doing what you're doing, and the kids are probably a couple years away from Wedding Crashers.
Yes.
11 to 8, though, sounds like Dumb and Dumber territory to me. Are we there?
I've never seen it.
Oh!
I know.
Mark!
I know. It's almost, I mean,
It's all right. I don't know if you would dig it.
4 times a year
at
this
this point
happens
in life.
where I have to reveal something like that, and it's an absolute travesty, and I deserve it. I've seen clips and been exposed. I've never watched it full. Yeah.
Oh, it's
bad.
a masterpiece.
It's bad.
This is peak Jim Carrey. Which, by the way, speaking of the 90s, yes.
No, it's a cardigan, but thanks for noticing.
I hope to do that one day. I actively see cops on the side of the highway, and I'm going 75, and I get up to 85 as close as I can, never get their attention, just in case I'm wearing a cardigan, which I never am, but maybe I should now because that would make the whole bit.
Damn it, I wore my pullover today.
Yeah. So what's the plan tonight? Is it movies with the kids?
So actually, tonight would probably be, if I was going out, my ideal situation, we're going to a wedding. Yeah.
A wedding?
A wedding in Newport, Rhode Island. It's a friend that I was real close with. We went to high school together. We remained close. I went to Bryant down in Smithfield, Rhode Island. He went to Providence College, so we remained real close throughout college. Haven't been as close. He's busy. The things happen as you get older, and we just haven't been as close. But 10 years ago, I was the officiant for his first wedding. Didn't work out, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. He's getting married again.
Do you feel responsible?
I mean, it's hard. I'm 0 for 1, so that was very disappointing. Things happen. I'm not exactly sure where. I'm not going to speculate. I just wish.
Well, no. So obviously, I'm busting balls.
Yeah, no.
But I am curious when you got that news. As someone who I've officiated 3 weddings, which I've been, honest to God, one of the highest honors of my life is to be asked to do that.
Sure.
It's the greatest thing.
No,
but when you got that news, it sucks.
Yeah.
Aside from it sucks, take me through. How quickly did you get to the self-involvement of, I was in the literal middle of this and now it's falling apart around me?
There were some things that were said to me the night before that didn't make me feel good about it. Kind of rattled my cage a little bit, but I just, brushed it aside. And then when it actually, I didn't feel responsible, but I felt awful.
Yeah.
That you were a part of something that didn't work out, especially when you didn't see that coming. You just never envisioned that happening, and it was just awful. So, but this is a great guy. I'm glad he has found love again. He's bounced back, and we can't wait to celebrate with him. And that's how I've got another good friend. Happy anniversary, Doug and Christina. They got married on New Year's Eve. The only bad thing about that is, now Doug was always this big friend of mine that we would get together on New Year's Eve. I could never get together with him on New Year's Eve.
Never
because it's his anniversary. You know what I mean? So it just takes him out of play for the rest of his life, which is great. But it's just something that, okay, if you're ever trying to do something, he's unavailable. So whatever. But I like going to weddings because the parties, I don't really know. I'll usually end up at a party where I don't know a lot of people, or it's something I'm kind of just thrown into. The wedding, you can kind of just do what you want to do, especially if it's a night out, get into the hotel, have some drinks, make some moves. That would be, if it wasn't with the kids, that's probably my idea. But my New Year's Eve usually ends up in one of those videos that you see online. I see that I don't know why they're on my feed, but I'll get the video of, life that you thought life was going to be like when you're married, where it's this woman, the kids get put to bed and she's in this nightgown and she's on the bed and she's kind of looking at you and trying to get you to sit down with her. And then it's versus what actually happens, and she's not in the nightgown and she's tired. And usually I have that first image in my, that's what New Year's Eve is going to be every year. And it's just, it doesn't happen that way all the time.
Yeah, that's the thing I was saying off the top. It's an expectations thing, right?
Yeah.
And wherever it comes from, now it's Instagram as a kid or teenager in your early 20s. I've done the New York thing, not standing outside watching the ball drop, just at a bar, done the bar thing here in Boston, done the house parties, like I was just saying. It ends up being just hanging out with friends, low-key setting, have some drinks, play some cards. Just, that was the best night. I want to go back, though. First of all, I think as 2 officiants here, and not because things went poorly, unfortunately, for that particular instance, it gets me thinking that with the official registry of different officiants, everyone should have something that reflects standings. You know what I mean? How many of the marriages that you've consummated but made official, how many are sticking around? You know what I mean? And wins and losses kind of standings. Because if I'm someone who doesn't have a close friend like you and I've had that you pick and go, hey, could you do this? Yeah. You want to go to someone who at least has a good track record of that, or isn't just bad luck, which isn't to say you're bad luck, because I know it's not your fault. And I'm glad for your friend, which to bring this to him now, heady play with the New Year's Eve wedding. Because A, he's never going to forget his anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
B, he's lumped this in with another type of party or gift giving where you might as well just do this on Valentine's Day. It's like a 2-for-1.
Right.
This is the buy one, get one holiday that your friend, perhaps on the second time, has learned the lesson of, well, if I'm going to get married again, I might as well just do it New Year's Eve. Just all together, even with Christmas. This is like the best 6 days of his partner's year. And he's never going to screw it up. Because the calendar is just going to tell him, hey, here we go, end of the year. This is your time. We got to get some gifts.
No, it's a great. I mean, from that perspective, it's a great move, and it's always an excuse. Like I said, I always try to enjoy or take advantage of the holiday, and I'm not able to a lot of years. This is a great excuse to do that every year. Plan something, get away, have some grown-up time, party with you and your wife. That's a great thing to be able to do every New Year's Eve. You're not going to have to worry about work the next day. It's all of that. So. I feel bad that it kind of went down the way it did, and that I was a part of a wedding that didn't work, or a marriage that didn't work out. But
am I actually bringing you down because I'm trying to? Okay, good.
No, nope.
I've more curiosity and not like some investigative stuff, but I'm genuinely curious about this because, again, that sucks. But I've never had the kind of secondhand or the tangential disappointment of being part around a divorce. I've had friends break up, get divorced, and that sucked unto itself. But you were a step closer. I'm just curious what that was like. So,
I mean, I didn't know the bride super well. They were from North Carolina. She was from North Carolina, but I got to know her well enough over the years. I just didn't see it coming, and it's fine. It's just, those things happen.
Wedding, real quick.
Yeah.
Since you're going.
Yeah.
You strike me as kind of corner of the dance floor guy. You and your wife in the corner. Are you a little closer to the middle? You ever in the middle of the circle that always forms and people are taking turns?
I am not a corner of the dance floor.
You're middle of the dance floor guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll get it going. I get going.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a DJ. I want Pitbull. That's what I want.
Okay.
I want Pitbull. Some bands, I think you must know Ruthie Polinsky.
Yeah.
And her husband, they got married a couple years back. We went down to St. Louis, unbelievable wedding, unbelievable band. And I was out there, Jen and I were out there cutting it up all night long. Yep. But, so if it's a good band. A what?
With the worm? What are you doing?
I didn't get that. No. It's more of it's a lot of foot action. I don't know how to explain it. I mean, my wife will tell you it's awful, but I'm out there. Here's the thing, Andrew, and you know this. When you go to a wedding, I feel like the bride, the groom, they want to see you out there enthusiastically participating in the dancing. That makes them feel good, and it's their special day. So I want to make them feel good. I'm also trying to have some fun. So I'll get out there. I'll hang you up a little bit. It might be annoying. I'll grab you by the back. I'll hang you up. I'm doing this. And then I'll do, I'll get in the middle of that circle, and I'll get the feet going. I'll spin. I don't usually, not on the floor. I'm not on the floor, worm, break dancing, none of that. But I'll spin. I'll get down, and I'll shake it. I'll do a little shoulder, something like that. I don't like that Fireball song as much. I'm talking about Give Me Everything Tonight. I'm talking about Hey Baby with T-Pain.
Yeah, some Pitbull with soul in it. The real deep tracks of Pitbull. Come on, Ryan.
Oh, I'm sure we have that.
Love again with Ursher. That's what I'm looking for. Because I think it's funny. The old people you know what the best thing we did in our wedding? This is the best move. And anybody that wants a party at their wedding, I would suggest this. We had the intros, okay? Yeah. Intros, we come in, and as soon as my wife and I came into the venue, we're introduced, which, by the way, was to Welcome to the Jungle. Nice. Got people going. That was the one thing I asked.
That fits.
It was the one thing I asked. I was like, you can do everything. You can plan everything, have it the way you want. Just let us come into Welcome to the Jungle. So people were hyped. As soon as we walked in, we had this plan. We had the DJ call everybody to the dance floor. Pitbull. He's like, get up, let's go. Everybody to the dance floor, and that set the tone. It's going to be a party. We're going to be dancing. Everybody came up. Everybody's thumping.
Think about what you just described. The introductions are set to Welcome to the Jungle, which is the same scenario you would find at the start of an NFL game.
Exactly.
And then as soon as you say, all right, let's go, we're going to set the tone, that's an opening drive. The start of your wedding reception was a football game.
Yeah.
All you needed, if this was set in New England, was instead of Welcome to the Jungle, a little crazy train. If you had been married at Gillette Stadium, people outside would think, that's not a wedding. This is a home game. How did I miss this on a Saturday? I didn't know the Patriots were playing.
Yeah, it was great, and that actually, it worked. It was a huge dance party, and that was exactly what we were looking for in that moment there in that spot. So, I'm not. I don't. If it's not that type of wedding, I don't know what type of wedding it'll be. But I do like to. Yeah, I'll dance at a wedding. So if that's the question, I dance. What's your ideal New Year's Eve for you?
Oh, I don't know. We kind of passed that, but I'm with the house party. I do like the wedding and the New Year's Eve. I've never been invited to one. I go back and forth, middle to the outside, kind of like get my finger in the pulse of how the dance floor is going. Mm-hmm. I have been accused by my wife of having main character energy sometimes out there in the dance floor.
Nothing wrong
but
with
also,
that.
there was the year that she and I got married, we had 6 other weddings. And due to some mistakes, some no-shows, I ended up playing at these different weddings. I was an officiant. That was planned.
Yep.
I was a fill-in DJ for a DJ who was a fill-in himself and would just get up and go get food. And his setup was not, here's a list of songs that I've curated, or Pitbull, and just put it on repeat. It was ripping songs from YouTube, dropping them into his program that was playing music.
Oh, he's me then.
And then, yes, and it might have been you. And he just would let it go, but there was no cue. So once that song that he had dragged and dropped was over, so was all the sound. So I got to jump in and fill in for them, and then we had another wedding that was kind of a campground situation where the bartenders also just left. So I got to jump behind the bar. It was a great time. So I like to think I'm kind of a glue guy coming off the bench. Whatever you need, I'm there for your wedding. So in the way that it sounds like you would be happy to rent yourself out for the dance floor, get things going, bring your Pitbull. You can rent me out too. I will do whatever you need. Just keep me in the back. When something goes wrong, I'll be there to fix it.
So that's great. I've never seen a situation where that many fill-in scenarios had unfolded. So I give you a lot of credit and the skills.
A lot of weddings that year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the one at the campground obviously was more informal.
Yeah.
We had like stacks of treehouse and some basic drinks and make this and do that. And it was late at night, so I don't think anyone particularly cared. But that's another one where everyone's like standing around. First instance is because there was no music. So you can't dance when there's no music. You're just standing. The other one was, is the bartender coming back?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I think that's their Honda Civic leaving the campground right now. What are we going to do? I got it. I'm your glue guy. I'm your wedding glue guy.
Key. Are you basically out of the rage of weddings, that phase where it's 3-4 weddings a year?
For now, we got at least one coming up this year,
Okay.
another, so 2026, one in 2027. I think we'll have a couple more.
Yeah.
A couple more.
It's nice to sprinkle them in every day. That was a tough stretch when we had 5 weddings a year. A lot of money. If you're traveling, it could be a lot, but I try to have a good. I mean, you don't get away that we don't get away that often. So if it's a chance to get away for a night or whatever, we try to enjoy that. We're gonna enjoy this today. Well, why don't you explain what we're gonna be looking at today with some of the things that we've got planned?
Sure. So New Year's Eve,
Yeah.
we're not going to do a normal show. We will talk in all seriousness about the news of yesterday,
Correct.
which is not just the news in New England that Stefon Diggs is facing a felony strangulation charge and a misdemeanor assault charge. That we will address throughout the show in a serious way. Around that, we have an award show. The Takeys.
That's right.
The worst Boston sports media takes of 2025, as brought to you by Boston Sports Media. We are, and again, this is not serious, calling people like Alex Barth and Matt Doloff of 98.5 The Sports Hub to the stand. Give us your worst takes. Mark Daniels. We have Chris Cotillo, Ian Brown, Doug Kyde, a couple of other folks who are going to come on the show. All right, we'll talk sports. And then, hey, give us that worst take. And you and I are going to lead this off because you have to lead by example. Glue guy, radio host, just good person. You got to own up to your mistakes. So that's all coming up. We have the Takeys. And then at the end of the show, we will vote. If you want to call in with your worst take, because, look, everyone's doing the best of 2025 and looking back and celebrating. No. We do not celebrate greatness here on New Year's Eve. We look back. This is an accountability show. Give us your worst takes, the worst predictions you had of 2025. I don't think we're going to take a ton of calls today, but if you got something really bad, really smelly, as our guy Joe Murray would say, give us a ring.
617-779-0985. I'm looking forward to that. I have had, obviously, some horrendous takes.
Smelly.
I feel like the one that I went with is just so in my face recent and really I've been called out for it online. I had to go with that one, but there's others that, over the course of a couple of years that we could go back to, which I don't really care to do, but we'll do what we need to do here on a New Year's Eve day show, New Year's Eve morning show on Toucher and Hardy. Mark Dondero, Andrew Callahan, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
You're listening to Toucher.
happened?
He's got the same questions.
Where is the story?
And the same opinions.
Boring.
And he's back with Fred on the Sports Hub.
Did you catch the game last night?
All right, back here on Toucher and Hardy, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Mark Dondero, Andrew Callahan. Happy New Year. What happened last night? Well, honestly, it was something that none of us wanted to see, but it is something that sort of dominated the news cycle, and that's, Stefon Diggs being charged with some serious stuff. And it's going to impact our conversation. It's going to impact the Patriots. If you didn't hear, Stefon Diggs was charged with felony strangulation or suffocation and misdemeanor assault and battery stemming from an incident that allegedly occurred on December 2nd. I guess, Andrew, what was your takeaway when you heard about this and where we stand currently?
So I think first, before my takeaway, is just to further details what happened. Because that's the first question you ask, right? Is, okay, what happened? You just read he was charged. Why was he charged? What were some of the details on that? So as you mentioned, December 2nd, that's a Tuesday. It was the first day of really their bye week. They'd played the Giants the night before, and it's over a dispute with a woman who had served as his personal chef and lived at this dead-end address, whom he allegedly choked and hit. And so that's where all of this stems from. Diggs has not yet been arraigned. His attorneys say his representatives are working to resolve this case through a financial settlement with the accuser, which is notable because, again, this is dispute over money. This woman claimed to Diggs, as she told police, that she was owed money. And there was a contract set out in July when she began working for him where she was going to be paid weekly. And then it turns out she was going to be paid monthly. And so, what she told police is in a police report that was out yesterday, and among those details is that Diggs had entered her unlocked bedroom at that Dedham address. They began arguing, and according to her, he, quote, smacked her across the face, end quote. Then he tried to, quote, choke her using the crook of his elbow around her neck, end quote, and she feared that she might black out. According to her, Diggs tightened his grip as she tried to pry his arm away and then threw her onto the bed and said something to the effect of, quote, thought so. So she told Diggs she hadn't been paid. He said those are lies. This is where this was. She leaves and then returns on December 9th and told Diggs' assistant, again, I want to be paid and collect some stuff. Apparently, that assistant told her that she could get paid if she signed an NDA. This is according to the police report. She did not sign any such agreement, and a week later goes to police after wrestling with this. And according to the police report and according to her, just the weight of his fame and understanding what this would lead to, national headlines and yada yada, whether to press charges. That decision of whether to press charges came after the fact that she had gone to the police days later. But this is the timeline. Police said she did not provide any photos documenting any injuries, though she claimed to have redness in her upper chest, and none of those injuries were visible when she came to the station for the first time 2 weeks after the incident. Now, this is where people start to insert or pick and choose, I think, the facts or let's say details of the police report, because right now I think we all understand we live in a country where you are innocent until proven guilty. Mm-hmm. There is also a sentiment by people, okay, that's the letter of the law, Callahan, but the reality is people hear these charges and immediately assume he's guilty. Whatever it is, we can all just wait. You and I are being paid right now to talk on the radio, to have take some opinions and discuss things. This is one instance where I would say it is perfectly okay for you, for me, for anyone listening and watching, just to kind of sit this out and let the process play out, because we have an example, which is not a direct one-for-one here, but you remember Jabril Peppers last year.
Yep.
Right? Okay. Those allegations were, let's say, more intense, if not more serious, in terms of the domestic violence he was accused of. That was the situation that played out, and the Patriots, by their inaction and silence, I remember checking in on that going, hey, what's the deal? This is pretty bad. Why hasn't anything been done? And they said, well, don't you think that silence and inaction is kind of telling? This is someone within the organization. Because the Crafts historically have not taken accusations like that lightly. So what happened after all of this reporting comes out, and mind you, all of these allegations that I just laid out have been categorically denied by Diggs. And I know I'm going long here, but let's lay it all out, and then we'll dive into it. So this is from his attorney, speaking about the allegations. Quote, They're unsubstantiated, uncorroborated, and were never investigated because they did not occur. The timing and motivation for making the allegations is crystal clear. They are the direct result of an employee-employer financial dispute that was not resolved to the employee's satisfaction. Stefon looks forward to establishing the truth in a court of law. The Patriots, mind you, these statements, you can almost, whether it's Peppers or Diggs or any other instance, release a statement, you can always predict the first and last lines. The first one says, we're aware. The last one says, we have no further comment. But the stuff in the middle is always the most telling. And in this particular statement, there was a quote that says 3 words. We support Stefon. We will continue to gather information and will cooperate fully with the appropriate authorities in the NFL as necessary. That, to me, Mark, of all the details I just laid out, where there's a lot of she said and allegations, right? Mm-hmm. And there's denials on Diggs' part through his attorney and through the team. We support Stefon. Tells me in the same way that the inaction the team had last year with Jabril Peppers, not suspending him, sitting him briefly. He did go on the commissioner's exempt list, came back, and then played last season, you'll remember. Tells me that whatever Diggs has provided them, or what his accuser has not been able to provide, is satisfactory to them. We'll wait to hear from Mike Vrabel today at 1:10, but you don't see often, as I just said, all of the statements start the same. And the NFL, by the way, said, oh, yeah, we've heard about it. We're not giving any further comment. We support Stefon. In the middle of that statement was the most telling piece of this entire thing. That is the one thing that I will allow myself, having dealt with and read and investigated and written about these type of incidents and the statements and how teams respond, myself to look into. Because you don't have to say we support Stefon. You can say the same statement that every team and every organization does after incidents and accusations and news like this. They didn't. They went a little step further. Mm-hmm. Why?
Well, we don't know that. But I
You're right.
agree with you. It is telling. I think the one thing that I know is that it's hard initially for a fan, for us, for me, I'll speak for myself, to not want to just kind of jump to a conclusion. Wow, this must have happened. Or, no, that's BS. Just like, we can't do that. We're not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I could be wrong. I'm not obviously covering the team as intimately as you are. But didn't the Jabril Peppers situation, wasn't he looking forward, as they said in this statement, to kind of clearing his name? Or wasn't there a situation with that where he didn't want to pay because he didn't think he should have to pay based on whatever transpired? Or am I thinking of something else?
Yeah, there were some details in and around that and discussion of a civil suit, which is what that ended up being.
Okay.
And look, there were criminal allegations in there, but the case of this is such that the attorneys for Diggs have said that his representatives are engaged in conversations to find a financial settlement. That is according to the Boston Globe.
Okay.
So that to me is separate, especially considering that the apparent spark for this incident, this alleged incident, and alleged assault and alleged strangulation, is a financial dispute of whether or not she was paid for November, which there are details in the police report that Diggs had to sign off through his representation on those payments before they were made, not weekly as promised, but monthly. Again, all part of the story that she has conveyed to police and was part of the report released by police yesterday.
So for me, I'm trying not to jump to a conclusion here. And then I will say this, and this isn't necessarily a good thing, but based on my experiences, I don't, and feel free to comment, I don't know if I have any expectation for the NFL to do anything. So if you're talking about the NFL stepping in and, arranging some sort of discipline towards Stefon Diggs, I don't see that happening. Now, we'll see what transpires, how things play out, January 23rd or whatever that date is, where the Patriots season is at that point, if there is still a season at that point. But I'm just not sure, based on the history of the NFL and some off-field incidents and trouble that players have gotten into, I'm not sure they're going to come out or they're going to take action to the point where they're going to, I guess, prevent Stefon Diggs from playing in games or playoff games or something like that, which would obviously impact the on-the-field product.
Right. So the ball is in the Patriots and the NFL's court. We're basically two balls here. Okay. And I say the Patriots not because, everything is up to them. If he goes on the commissioner's exempt list, that is up to the commissioner, and that is essentially paid leave up to the NFL. If that happens, there's nothing they can do. What they can do, as they can do with any player, for almost any reason, not any reason, is just sit him, bench him, tell him to stay home.
The Patriots?
The Patriots.
The Patriots,
yeah,
right.
Which again, you could do with any player.
Yeah, yep.
We could make anybody a healthy scratch if we want to.
Yep.
I'm not saying that they should. I'm not saying they should. I'm saying that option is there for them on the table. And instead, again, a day after they release a statement which says, quote, "We support Stefon," end quote, amid a larger statement, to me says they probably aren't going to do that. The commissioner's exempt list, though, is an option, not just because it exists, but because these charges meet the criteria for players who go on the commissioner's exempt list. It is a felony charge. There is violence involved. That's enough, if Roger Goodell wants, to just say you can sit this out. Now, their threshold for evidence, right, or whatever you want to call it, it's basically whether you're guilty or not. Whether they get to lever punishment or not is not up to the court of law. It's just in their eyes, the NFL. They also, we should remember, don't have the purest motivations here. In that, yes, they want to play judge and jury, and they can because this is their court, okay? The field, everything that happens with football. But they're mindful of their bottom line. So every time you hear the phrase, we got to protect the shield, what that means is we have to protect the bottom line because they will take PR hit after PR hit and lie to your face and lie to mine so long as the money keeps coming in. That is going to factor into their decision-making in addition to whatever evidence they do or do not collect. It is not just based on the evidence in the case that is at hand, and they might say we need more time and more information. That'd be totally fine. But let's not pretend that Stefon Diggs, a major player who had made national news outside of the sports world, coming into the playoffs for one of the highest-profile organizations going into this stage of the season, is not going to factor into their thinking. Because it does, because it'll affect their bottom line.
100%. And I think it comes down to more so what the Patriots, and as you outlined, that wording was noteworthy because from where I sit, I would have thought it was going to be more about what the Patriots thought, how they wanted to handle it, what they were thinking in terms of maybe internal discipline, or he does need to sit down, or we need to wait till this plays out, or whatever it is. The fact that they are publicly stating that they support him would make me think that they have information that makes them comfortable to make a statement like that. That might be stating the obvious, but that's what it looks like to me. And they'll let it play out, and we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting. You said Mike Vrabel talks today.
He talks at 1:10.
Yep.
And here's the other piece about today's scheduling down at Gillette. And I'll be down there, and I'm sure there will be a throng of reporters.
Yeah.
Wednesday's in the locker room. Stefon Diggs speaks very early. Every player is obligated by league rules, not rules that I made up, not rules the media made up, the rules that the NFL set by its own media policy. Players must be available once a week. He decides, I'm going to go Wednesday. I'm going to do early in front of his locker. He usually goes for 10, 12 minutes. Expounds. He's thoughtful. That happens. I do think that'll happen today. Just a guess, my gut feeling. I'm not reporting on this. But the history of the way the Patriots have treated such incidents, which they could also just not make him available and know that that would go to the league and there would be some kind of penalty, which they might be willing to pay. I don't know. My sense would be they would allow him to answer 3 to 5 questions, fulfill the obligation, check the box. Stefon can handle himself in front of the media. He's done it before. We did this with the whole pink substance thing in May and June.
Yep.
And then get out of there. I'm more curious, not what Stefon says, though I am, what does Mike Vrabel say? Because there's a part of this where you could go, okay, guys, we released a statement. In the last 24 hours, you have blown up 3 words out of 4 or 5 sentences, whatever it was, into this big thing of how we feel. That's a categorical statement of just how we feel about every player. We support Stefon because he's a player here, and we support all of our players here. To me, though, it's something more than that. I will just let Vrabel speak for himself. Maybe that's not what he's going to say. Maybe he'll say something different. This is the part where, again, as you said, it is tempting to pick the little details that you think are more telling than others. The only thing to me that I allow myself to read into as someone who's covered this team for 8 years is the statement, not the legal stuff and the details of the police report. If you let the process play out, it always does, and we'll get to wherever we're going to go. You just have to be patient in the meantime. But today is going to be an interesting day, and we can get more into that in the next segment, as well as, the Celtics played last night.
That's right. So we're going to get into that. There were some noteworthy performances last night. This is obviously, just real quick before we go to break and move on, distraction-wise. It's obviously going to be a distraction no matter what. This is something that the team is going to have to address, deal with. Drake may, everybody's going to feel the gravity of this, at least for the foreseeable next few days. Is this something you think the team is able to handle, is able to deal with? They haven't dealt with a ton of adversity this year overall. Will they be okay here?
We'll find out.
Yeah.
And I don't say that as a doom and gloom or, people who get really effing extreme on Twitter, fear-mongering. Like, this is a young team. They've proven to be mentally tough. I think also when we label stuff like this as a distraction, we trivialize it. Like, as if the Patriots are victims here, that football is the victim here, a team with a great quarterback, a bright future, multi-billion-dollar enterprise, is the one directly affected when a woman has claimed that she was strangled by one of its star players. Okay? If she's telling the truth, she is the victim. If not, this distraction, as you put it, is something less than what she claims. But the bottom line is, it's up to the players and the head coach and how you handle this. Because the quote-unquote distraction is like, yeah, you might look at Diggs differently. Maybe you don't. I don't know. To each his own. But it'll be in your face and we're in the locker room for 45 minutes, as reporters are Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It will happen when you're asked about it with your family and friends. But they have a game to play Sunday. And after that game is over, so is the regular season. You're on to the playoffs. There is a way here to focus, and I think the timing, as much as it might be brutal if Diggs is held out, kind of works in their favor for the rest of the team of going, we have to buckle down anyway and focus. And the distraction piece, I don't really care about, but as far as that goes, that's how I see it.
I do have, and we'll see, we don't know if all of this is true, how much of it is true, whatever.
They're all allegations.
That's correct. I do, though, have confidence in the leadership of Mike Vrabel.
Yes.
To handle the allegations, to kind of assess what needs to be assessed, to find and ask the right questions regarding the situation specifically, to do the right things and say the right things to his team, to try to rally the team no matter what actually happened here, and to move on to a football game, because the team's going to have to move on to a football game. The Patriots, their season's going to continue. I do have faith in his ability to lead and to, guide this team through whatever storm this does become. So that's a good thing for the team from a football sense.
On that note, just because you bring it up, and it's a really good one, I don't know if he's listening, and I would say probably not. He's a very busy guy. They got a lot more things that are more important than this show, as much as we're really appreciative of everyone spending time in the show. I really hope that Mike Vrabel does not issue a statement and then decline to take any type of questions and hide behind the notion that he cannot say anything. I understand this is
the
incredibly
Belichick thing.
thorny. Yeah. And Belichick was more verbose in certain moments than people remember and give him credit for. But the point is, again, if you are someone who has built this leadership and this equity and this culture by saying, we are going to treat you like a person and we are going to care about you and we're going to develop you as men, we should extend the same humanity to the people that the players in your locker room touch outside their lives. In this particular instance, to whatever degree, the degree that she alleges being strangled or perhaps just being bothered by Stefon Diggs, like, she's a human being. And whether or not these allegations are true, I think he needs to treat this as something that is serious and worth talking about, because whether or not he engages with it or not, we're talking about it. And I think him addressing this and not dismissing it in a way that says, can't do anything about it, I'm not going to talk about it, I'm focused on football. When you say that, you say football is more important than this. And to me, I understand how grave it is, and he's really kind of boxed in from a PR standpoint, but he should do his best to say as much as he can today within the limitations, because we should all agree and know this is bigger than football.
I couldn't agree more. I'll go as far as to say I'd be shocked, and I get there's legalities involved, but I would be really, really surprised, if not shocked, if that's what happened. If he didn't actually make a real effort to have some comments.
I'm sure he'll make a statement and take a couple of questions.
Yes, because this is a man that just.
But we'll see.
He just, made sure or had all the wives of the coaching staff in New York on the field. They went out to dinner. He cares about people and families and the well-being of his players and everything involved with that. I just would be surprised if he did what you outlined and said, I can't say much, or tried to not make a comment or something. I just would be shocked. I don't see that as part of Mike Vrabel's plan today, but we'll see what happens around 1 o'clock. All right, more to come. The Celtics played last night, as Andrew just mentioned. More on this and our takeys, our bad takes from 2025. The worst takes from 2025, and there are some bad ones. We're going to have a bunch of people helping us out with this, and you're going to want to hear. I'm interested to hear how bad some of these takes were, because I think that'll be entertaining. 617-779-0985. Toucher and Hardy, Mark Dondero, Andrew Callahan. Happy New Year.
Essential Sports Hub.
What's the best way to listen to Toucher and Hardy?
Well, you're going to have to spend $40.
Cough it up, and let's get back to Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
Clean up the segment. The Celtics were in Utah to face the Jazz, and it was much about Derek White. He had a team-high 27 points, including this three-pointer.
White, wide open look for the three from the left, and he made it.
And I'm looking over there at Jason Terry going, how did he get open like that?
Derek White all of a sudden has 18 points. That's a team high. Celtics lead is 5.
John Wallach on
Shout
the
out
call.
John Wallach.
Johnny Wallach.
Yep. It's interesting. So White, 27 points, but I think he only had 2 3-pointers. He's 2 for 10 from 3. This is what I like about Derek White. He's actually kind of transformed himself into I forgot that when he got here, he was sort of he had a defensive identity almost. And
he
now
didn't have a good 3-point shot.
Yeah, it's become, you forgot about that because he's so good and so efficient shooting the 3. But even on a night where he's not as efficient shooting the 3, he finds a way to score the 27 points and record 7 blocks, which I think I read hasn't been achieved since Dennis Johnson did it back in the 80s or whatever. It's just impressive, and Derek White continuing to step up and doing what needs to be done with Jason Tatum out.
Derek White had 13 of those 27 points in the fourth quarter. What was a tight game with an undermanned Jazz team, by the way. Keontae George, if you have not been checking into the Jazz or the NBA at large, had 37 for Utah. That is a made guy. So Derek White answers that not only just with those 13 in the fourth. He has 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and those 7 blocks, which, by the way, he is the first player in Celtics history to have that stat line. And when we do this, sometimes the numbers are kind of arbitrary. I'm sorry. Even if the cutoffs are 6 and 7, 6, 7, 27, 7, 6, and 7 is crazy. Crazy. First guard to ever do that in NBA history. This is a guy who is deserved, fan favorite, all the praise, even with the shot, a little wobbly this year. Part of it's a volume thing, and honestly, he's taking so many threes. I don't care that his field goal percentage is somewhere below 45 last time I checked. He's doing enough after a slow start that everyone should love Derek White. I think they do.
He was everywhere on defense, and this block here tied a career high.
Keontae George has been real quiet here in the second half. Finds Nurkic straight away. Marking an inner lane. Blocked by Derek White. Ball's loose on the wing. Utah recovers. Clayton double clutches a 3. He missed it. Rebound Shireman. White has been everywhere on both ends of the floor.
And this, just to keep it going, this block became a season high.
Finds Clayton around Ugo, and it's blocked by White. His 7th block of the evening to officially put this one away.
That's crazy.
I mean, Nurkic.
I love Max.
Is 6'11".
That's crazy.
He was blocking shots out on the perimeter. I didn't watch every second of this game, but it's like, how did he find a way to block 7 shots? When was the last time somebody blocked 7 shots? I just don't know. I'm not following the NBA around the league. Who blocks 7 shots?
Well, Victor Wembanyama is the answer. But when we take away the low-hanging fruit and you look at the Celtics, I think Rob Williams had 6 going back 4 years ago because they had this on the broadcast. I watched most of the game last night. But it's just a weird game because here's the other piece about this. This is the night that broke Jalen's streak of 30 points in 10 straight games. So Jalen only finishes with 23, but he has 10 assists, those 6 rebounds. Okay night. But that's where Derek White flies in with his own Superman cape because you get contributions off the bench. It was a good Luka Garza game, and Anthony Simons had 20, and that's all nice. But the Jazz only play in shootouts.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just up and down, defense optional. And they won. 129, 119. It's not because the Jazz are world beaters, but a night when Jalen is more limited than he's been, you need someone to pick up the slack. Derek White did that and ran with it.
Do you want to just for some perspective, guess how many times Victor Wembanyama has 7 or more blocks this year?
4.
Once.
Wow. All right.
He had 9 blocks back on, and it was an overtime game back on October 24th. That's the only time he had 7 or more blocks. In that instance, it was 9. Derek White, 7 blocks last night, and Wembanyama has done it once.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he had 6 the next night, but it's 3, 4, 3, 5. Derek White. I mean, it's just incredible. And I said this to you off the air. I feel like we're approaching the territory of he's one day going to have his jersey, his number retired to the rafters. Derek White.
So we were just easing in like you do to your driveway
on
a return home into the break, and now we just
I know.
hit the
I shouldn't have
gas.
said
You
it.
just hit the
I
gas
shouldn't have
with the
said that.
take.
Yeah, we don't have to get into it.
We'll get
I
into
just
it
think
later.
it was just something that, I mean, I don't know why it hit me last night, to be honest. It dawned on me. Maybe it was the Dennis Johnson thing.
Here's the thing. When you first said it, I thought you were crazy. The longer I've let it marinate, I'm coming around. And if it does happen, hit the Max sound again.
That's crazy.
It might not be that crazy. Which Max means that, by the way, in that call.
Of course he does.
Of course he does, because Max is an authentic person. But the tone of that's crazy, as an aside, is what you say when someone's telling you a story that goes too long.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It legitimately is.
That's well said. I don't know. I think it will happen, and I just feel like what he did in the finals, in the playoffs against Golden State, going back years, the tip-in that helped them extend the series against the Miami Heat, that was a moment frozen in time. What he's done, when they won the championship, his contributions, all of the way he's carried himself, likability, all of those different things, I feel like is going to culminate.
He's a true Celtic. I think is the highest compliment you could pay him for a guy who's still got however long they want to keep him around, which I think would be forever, especially when he's as tight as he is with Tatum. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like, that's not going to dictate everything with Brad Stevens, but Jason Tatum, if he walks into Brad Stevens' office and says, hey, Derek's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
You know where Derek's going? Nowhere. He's staying put.
He's a low maintenance guy. He's a low maintenance NBA player that can score 30 to 40 points. It's incredibly remarkable.
You know what? I take it back. The highest compliment is not that Derek White is a true Celtic. The highest compliment is that my mom is in love with Derek White. And if your mom loves a particular player, that jersey can just go into the rafters before it's even done being stitched. Just put it there, reserve the space. He can play as long as he wants. He's got a lot of good basketball ahead of him. But that's how you know you've really made a lasting impact on a franchise.
And it was weird. But even after they lost to Golden State, you just knew they were going to win a championship at some point, because he was too good of a role piece to not be involved on a championship team. And they did end up winning, and he obviously played a role in that, and here we are. And we'll see if they can do it again. They'll need Tatum back, but those are all conversations we can have down the road. We have more conversations to have about Stefon Diggs, the Patriots on field. We're going to talk to a lot of people this morning about their worst takes 2025 and all of the above. More to get to here. Toucher and Hardy, Mark Dondero, Andrew Callahan, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Happy New Year.
Toucher and Hardy, 98.5.
Sports Hub headlines. Presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
Celtics enjoyed a big second half last night as they took down the Jazz 129-119 in Utah. Jaylen Brown, 23 points, 10 assists. Derek White, 27.7 blocks as Boston ended 2025 on a high note. C's will be back on the floor New Year's Day night in Sacramento to face the Kings. Patriots receiver Stefon Diggs was charged on Tuesday with felony strangulation or suffocation and misdemeanor assault and battery stemming from an alleged incident on December 2nd. The Patriots have released a statement in which they stated, quote, "The New England Patriots are aware of the accusations that have been made regarding Stefon Diggs. Stefon has informed the organization that he categorically denies the allegations. We support Stefon," close quote. Mike Vrabel will meet with the media. He's scheduled to meet with the media today around 1:10 p.m. We'll be following that closely, obviously. Patriots will be back at practice as well. More news out of the Diggs family. Stefon's brother, Trayvon Diggs, was released by the Dallas Cowboys on Tuesday. The two-time Pro Bowl cornerback will be a free agent if he isn't claimed off of waivers. And the college football playoff resumes tonight with Miami taking on Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. Ohio State is a 9.5-point favorite to win the game. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by East Coast Metal Roofing. 'Tis the season to save during East Coast Metal Roofing's holiday savings event, where Sports Hub listeners get 10% off a new roof guaranteed to last for life. Plus 0% financing and no payments for 1 year. Call 844-611-ECMR or visit eastcoastmetalroofing.com. I'm Mark Dondero from Boston's Home for Sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub. Next update around 30 minutes.
Mays under center, offset on. Drake throws down Drake rolls well, breaking traffic. Off balance, throw at the end zone. Caught by Good pass is going to be.
Drake May plays on one station in Boston.
Here's another Drake May moment. Drake May.
98.5 The Sports Hub.
Why do people listen to Toucher and Hardy?
Because it's a thing.
All right.
You know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
No idea what you're talking about.
Here's more of The Thing on the Sports Hub.
Back here, Toucher and Hardy. 98.5 The Sports Hub. Mark Dondero, Andrew Callahan. Happy New Year. We're resetting the top story. Stefon Diggs was charged on Tuesday. Felony strangulation or suffocation and misdemeanor assault and battery stemming from an alleged incident on December 2nd. Mike Vrabel will meet with the media today, and as we were discussing, it's going to be interesting to see how it's handled, what is said. Does Stefon Diggs meet with the media, which he has done on Wednesdays in the past? We'll see if all of that unfolds today in Foxborough.
Yeah, it's a big day. And not just because the Patriots still have a chance at the number one seed. They got a game Sunday against the Dolphins, who I shared yesterday in the show during my hour. Patriots have not swept the Dolphins in a season series 10 years.
Crazy.
Since Barack Obama was in the White House. But as far as Diggs goes, again, if you are somehow just coming to this in the news cycle the last 20 hours or so, allegedly choked and hit a woman who had been working as a chef in a dispute over money, according to court filings. Diggs has categorically denied the charges. He has categorically denied them to the Patriots, who released their own statement saying that they support him. That is a literal quote. "We support him," amid a larger statement. He's not been arraigned. That's set for January 23rd. But there was a hearing yesterday about whether to impound details of the police report that came out. And in there, you will find details about the alleged incident on December 2nd. Diggs allegedly requesting a week later, an NDA a week after that. The woman going to police, and a week after that, some deliberation, pressing charges. So his attorneys say, according to the Boston Globe, that they are endeavoring to reach a financial settlement with this accuser. In the meantime, Mike Vrabel is going to have to speak to reporters today, and I would imagine that the first couple of questions, and hopefully more than a couple, are about this. And then, as you said, Stefon Diggs at his locker usually speaks for 10 to 12 minutes. I'd be surprised, Mark, if we got that long.
I would too.
From him today.
Yeah.
Drake May also expected to speak today as well.
About 4:30. And look, he's like the rest of Stefon Diggs' teammates, and perhaps Stefon Diggs himself. Again, these are allegations. We'll see what comes of this. Is put in a spot where it's just not great having to answer for the alleged conduct of a teammate that everyone has hailed for his leadership. And the on-field production and the recovery from an ACL is separate from this, and it's impressive, and we can acknowledge that. But this is much different than that. And so it'll be interesting to see the tenor of the locker room But I would imagine, given the buy-in and command that Mike Vrabel has over the locker room, and that he had to sign off on that statement, we support Stefon is not just going to be the figureheads, the Vrabels, the Krafts. It's going to be down to a man in that locker room what they say. But we'll see.
And it'll be interesting to see if any of the questioning, the line of questioning, is centered around that part of the statement. And if, I don't know how much you'll be able to reveal, obviously. It's an ongoing legal situation. I just, that is noteworthy from the perspective of it makes me, and it's speculation, obviously, something you don't necessarily want to get involved with, but it would make me think that they have some details, at least from Stefon's side of things, that would make them comfortable enough to say that. And I don't know what that means. I don't know what he's going to say. But this will test. I think this will give us an indication of where they are, which we already had an indication, but where they are from a culture standpoint, organizationally, how locked in they, how secure they are as a group in terms of, is everybody on the same page? How are they dealing with a crisis? I mean, this is a crisis. This is something that's obviously a very disappointing thing to have happen at any point, but especially in a point of the season where they're at. And just from, not to move on to an on-field topic.
Well, one more thing, because I agree with you on the point about we support Stefon within that statement, which I understand if people are listening are going, how are you guys blowing up 3 words? You don't find those 3 words in other statements after other incidents where the Patriots have to release a statement like that because their player was arrested or involved in some sort of incident or facing similar allegations. This is unique, okay? Even if the Patriots are satisfied, if, with whatever evidence or lack thereof that Stefon has been able to supply or his accuser cannot supply, that does not mean that it satisfies a court of law or should satisfy you. All it means is that the people closer to this seem to be, and we will again hear from Mike Vrabel himself at 110, and that's most important, seem to be satisfied. But it is in their interest from a competitive standpoint, from a PR standpoint, to be satisfied. You know what I mean? We all want to see, we all believe and see what we want to see. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that's the case here. I'm just saying you don't have to sign off on something that the Patriots appear to have signed off on, which we don't know yet. But we support Stefon as something they didn't have to say. They chose to. That's strong. And it's just a matter of letting the process play out, which is frustrating. And it doesn't give us much in the meantime. But that's the best way to go about this.
Correct. And just to reiterate what you said, they didn't have to say that. And that is what the noteworthy part of this is, at least from my perspective, speaking for myself.
That's and they haven't before in other statements.
Right. They didn't have to say that. We don't know exactly what happened, but that was something that makes me think that they have information or they got an explanation that made them at least comfortable enough to say that they did not have to do that. Just from a bigger picture perspective, obviously disappointing in any way, shape, or form at any time of year. But personally, the last few days I spent talking about and asking about how Stefon Diggs could impact this team on the field in maybe a different way than he has. We've heard about December Diggs, when he used to be in Buffalo. His on-field production the last 2 weeks has really been that of a true number one receiver.
100-yard games.
And if he is able to do that and be that going into a playoff situation, not only would it benefit the Patriots on the field, obviously, it could benefit how teams view the Patriots, how they're going to defend the Patriots. I mean, I was thinking about all these different things that could really maybe take them to a different level. Now, I don't know any of this. I don't know how that's going to transpire with all this now out there. We'll see. We'll see what happens today.
I'll put it like this, in a perfect sports talk radio way. Stefon Diggs is sidelined, which would first be up to the NFL with the commissioner's exempt list, and the criteria is met there, by the way. It's up to them. If he's sidelined and doesn't play in the playoffs, the Patriots are not getting to the Super Bowl. It's that simple. And right now, part of that is because it looks like Denver is going to clinch the number 1 seed, though we'll see, against the backup Chargers. If you have to play 3 straight games against playoff caliber opponents, which right now look like toss-ups or something close to it anyway, none of those spreads are bigger than 3.5 points in either direction. And you're missing your best and most reliable receiver in addition to your third leading receiver in Matt Collins. I'm sorry. That is an offense right now that is ripe to be handled with man coverage and sometimes a little bit of blitz pressure. Because Diggs was the outlet on 4th downs, on 3rd downs. And if that's gone, they have a problem.
They have a problem. He is a guy that not only, he would make catches, obviously, and accumulate yards. It felt like at least the last 2 weeks, every time he was targeted, he made the catch. What do you have? 15 catches on 16 targets or something in the last 2 weeks? And by the way, what were the 2 games that were his best? Do you recall off the top of your head? It was Baltimore on the road and Buffalo on the road. What jumps out at you about those 2 games? Arguably 2 of the biggest games on the schedule where he was at his best. So not a guy, as you stated, that you'd want to lose because he, at least to this point, was every game perfect? Did he ball out every week? Not necessarily, but in the biggest games, he was as good as you could have hoped for.
Do you agree, though? If he's out, they just can't make the Super Bowl.
I do agree. I guess I didn't want to say or verbalize that, but you're right. You're right, especially with Mac Hollins. It was not being available for, until the AFC Championship game at best, and even if that played out, we don't know how healthy he would be, how productive he would be. I do not, as much as I've been a fan of Pop Douglas, as much as I appreciate Kayshon Boutte and what he's done, if I'm talking about Boutte and Douglas and
Kyle
Williams, and I like the tight ends, obviously, I don't think that's enough. With Drake May, I love him. I don't know if that's enough. They need a little bit more depth than at least Diggs and or Hollins.
And even if you like those guys, you're higher than consensus on those receivers. The offense is only half of the equation. You have a defense that is going to go up against Justin Herbert or Josh Allen at some point, and maybe C.J. Stroud too. Oh, and the Jaguars, who are suddenly one of the hottest teams in football. So, again, it's not just you can't win a game, you can't win 2 games. Right now, the way things are going, you are going to have to win 3 coin flips without a top 5 player in your roster, your most reliable receiver, and a young quarterback. It's hard for any team in such a packed AFC to win 3 straight games, which is why, frankly, if Denver does get the number 1 seed, they're going to be my pick to go to the Super Bowl. Not because I like them appreciably better. Like, I think Houston is probably a better team right now, but Houston is at much greater risk than Denver is of losing a football game on the way to the Super Bowl because they have to play an extra game, and they're going to have to go on the road. So when everyone's this close and you take a hit like the Patriots would, and let's be clear, there's no indication yet that he will go on the commissioner's exempt list. And as we covered earlier in the show, that decision is not going to be entirely based on evidence. That's going to be, what do we want to do with this? What's the best for us from the NFL standpoint, from a PR perspective? Because that's what they care about the most, their bottom line and their image, not the actual facts and criteria of a case.
And we are not talking about a defense as professional as they've been, and I've appreciated their efforts on many occasions this year. It's not like they've dominated this year where you just expect them to go out into the playoffs and shut people down. I don't expect that. They're going to need what they've had all year, the offense to really carry the day. Drake May, and it's going to be harder without some of those pieces available. 617-779-0985. When we get back, we're going to start the party. Our worst takes of 2025. Toucher and Hardy, Mark Dundaro, Andrew Callahan, 98.5 The Sports Hub. As a result, we're going to take a look back at some of the things from 2025, specifically some of our worst takes from 2025. It's not just going to be us. It will be us and friends. And that's what we're doing now, our worst takes from 2025.
The year's almost over. Now it's time to reflect on all of the dumb shit. It's time to admit who had the worst sports takes broadcast to your ears. Time now for the Takeys. Award season is here. It's here. It's time for the Takeys.
That was unbelievable.
Oh,
Beautiful.
Props to you. I mean, that was unbelievable that you put that together. And with that, Ryan, thank you. It's time for the Takeys, the ongoing award show that we will cultivate over the course of the next 2.5 hours. And with that, Andrew, the floor is yours. Give me your first, best, worst take from 2025.
First of all, I'm so glad to be here at the Takeys, co-hosting, as well as a
True
nominee.
honor. Yep.
I have 3 of the worst takes that I had in 2025. I'd love to say that the pre-show was delightful. I thought the fashion was tasteful. I thought we had a good spread. We've got some prizes in the back as we bring in Alex Barth and Doug Kide and Matt Goloff and Mark Daniels and Chris Cotillo and Ian Brown to find out what were the dumbest things they said. We might have one more in there. But I'm going to lead off as the host, lead by example, the worst takes of 2025 here at 98.5 The Sports Hub, The Takeys. Leading off, this is my podcast the day before the Patriots season finale earlier this year, the last game of the Gerard Mayo era. I told the world, Mike Pandero, I think the Crafts are going to stick with Gerard Mayo. I felt pretty confident in that. Mm-hmm. That's number one. Number two was a couple of months later, we're all talking about the draft, and Patriots are number 4, and they're 3 blue-chip prospects, and they'll probably end up with Will Campbell, so what did we do? We got way down into the weeds and collectively lost our minds. I thought Will Campbell's wingspan was too big of a risk. Now, I totally understand in retrospect why I thought that. His wingspan is a historical outlier. However, you know who else is a historical outlier from a performance standpoint? That same Will Campbell, who has been awesome as a rookie left tackle, 21-year-old offensive lineman that you just do not see play at the level that he had been playing prior to his injury anytime in the NFL. Here's a big L for you, Callahan. The last one. This was on TV month and a half ago. Mm-hmm. It was on BST with Felger. We're arguing about the Celtics. I was upset he couldn't name Keita as their starting center. But I had said, look, they're going to be a lock for their under, which is like 41.5, 42.5. I didn't like the bench. I didn't like the fit. It's a gap year. I like Jalen. Didn't like him in this role, blah, blah, blah. Not only are they going to hit an over, not only are they third place in the East, and I said they're a play-in team at best, they're on pace to win 52 games. And it's not a strength of schedule thing. You can't make the Patriots argument of, it's a soft schedule. That's why they've been so good. They're in the top half of strength of schedule so far, and that's even in a weak East. They've just been flat out good in a way that if the East stays at this level, I'm not talking finals run, but East finals run, absolutely on the table, especially with Tatum coming back. And I said they were a lock, a 37, 38 win team.
Whew. Okay.
There you go.
Those are good. Well said. Unfortunately, I have to share one of my worst takes was one of your worst takes. I, too, came on here and emphatically declared that the Patriots would not move on from Gerard Mayo. I didn't think Robert Kraft would do it. I'm thinking about the Celtics game. I'm thinking about Thundercat. I didn't think after one season, as bad as it was, and I saw what happened in stadium during that Chargers game last time, I didn't think he was going to do it. I didn't think they'd have the stones to do it. I didn't think they'd have it in there. Whatever.
The chutzpah,
I didn't think
they
were
might
going to.
say.
That's correct. I didn't think they were going to do it. I think my worst take of the year, and I actually had a better year this year than I think I did last year, but we're talking about this year. My worst take of the year was recent, and I'm going to go with it because it's in my face right now. After the Buffalo game at Gillette Stadium, I came out and declared with conviction that the MVP race was over, Gerard. It was Drake May had no chance. It was off the table. Forget it. And I did it with conviction.
Oh, no.
And that was a bad I jumped the gun there. I got too wrapped up in the moment, prisoner of the moment, and it's bad. It was a bad, and it wasn't even, it was so dismissive the way I said it, too. He was out of the MVP race, and I was okay with it because it's been a great year, but I just felt like at that time when he had the chance to do something the second half, had a chance to go down and win the game, everybody was talking about the schedule, and then to do that in that spot at home, I thought that was it for Drake May, and now he's the betting favorite as of right now.
Minus 295.
Yeah.
On that. And that was the post-game show you said?
It was a post-game show.
Okay,
yeah.
so we all saw the second half, and I know why you said that, but I'm thinking about that first half when they were absolutely on fire.
And he ran for 2 touchdowns.
He did run for 2 touchdowns, but the passing numbers were 14 to 23, 155 and a pick, which I remember even coming up from the locker room, which is disappointed, and we talked to May and Vrabel and all that, and picked up a stat book, and I'm going, no, that couldn't have been it, because we all know they were up 21-0 in the first half and 24-7 at halftime, and I understand it was disappointing, but it felt like a defensive disappointment. And no, you, sir, read it the wrong way.
Correct.
Or different than I did. But lost the MVP. Wow.
Yeah, I emphatically, as I always do. Like I said, it was over, and it was out of my mind. Here's another one. Okay, here's another awful take that I am pleased to say was an awful take. I was abhorrently against seeing. I didn't want to even hear his name, the name Vidarian Lowe. I did not want him back into the mix. I did not want him on the field. I didn't want him anywhere involved at all with the New England Patriots. And let me tell you something. Is he even out there? He has been so solid, I feel like. I don't even notice him. So I was dead wrong on not wanting Vidarian Lowe to step in for Will Campbell. I was wrong about that. He's been good.
Yeah, but you know what? People aren't going to punish you for that.
Okay,
that's like we bring up,
I got to be fair, though.
I know. But it's one of those, like, action movies. It gets nominated for special effects, but it's going to fall short of Best Picture. Like, we could give it, like, small subcategory consideration. You're not going to win, but, hey, you get to say with that take, I was nominated for the 2025 takings. We didn't win.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be on the ballot. But the Drake May 10 days ago falling out of the MVP race when he's now the odds-on favorite, that's strong.
That's strong.
And I appreciate you bringing that to the table.
That was easily the worst one.
I'm curious what we have upcoming from Alex Barth, who we're going to call here shortly. And then Matt Doloff is going to be in studio because we're trying to spread this out a little bit.
Yeah.
It's going to be Patriots heavy. It's the end of football season. Curious what Matt has on the Bruins. We get a couple of Red Sox writers coming up. If you have a take that meets what Mark just offered up, that Drake May lost the MVP race 10 days ago, an MVP award he's about to win in like 5 days, please call. Okay, this is not a time to celebrate greatness and look back with gratitude. This is the worst of us.
Yeah.
This is the takies. This is what it's really all about.
Can I give you one more?
Always.
Just one more. Back in June, we were talking about somebody offered up the suggestion of what's your top 5 or Mount Rushmore of rap songs of all time. And for whatever reason,
Don't say Pitbull.
No. I decided to put on my list a song called Last Night by one Allen Iverson as one of the top rap songs of my life. And now this is a good song for a basketball player. But to think about it, that I put it on my top 5 rap songs of all time, I don't know what I was doing. I got way too cute, and it was just a disastrous take, and I got some heat for that, understandably so. So that was, just wanted to throw that one
It's
in
like picking your top 5 favorite podcasts, and you're like, go with Tom Brady's. Let's go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Scratchy.
Or is him and Jim Gray have such great chemistry.
Yeah.
He was great at one thing, and it's not the podcast game. Same with Allen Iverson in the rap game, apparently.
I don't know why I did that. As much as
June Sports Talk Radio stuff. That was like Devers trade and nothing else.
Yeah,
at that time.
Okay, so we're gonna have people are gonna join us. We'll ask some questions. We'll get some insight, but we're also gonna get their worst takes of 2025.
Do you have any favorites? I mean, we don't know the takes yet, but I'm just curious based on the lineup that we have. Do you have a sense of who might come in with the hottest and worst takes? Alex Barth, Matt Doloff. We're gonna get to Mark Daniels, Chris Cotillo, Ian Brown, Doug, my guy at the Herald. Very even keeled. I think he's a long shot to win the takies. We've got one more invitation out that we're waiting on. But this is across Boston sports. We're trying to give you what you want, which is a pound of flesh from Boston sports media, the worst of us.
I'll be real interested
included.
What Mark Daniels has to say. I've worked with Mark for a long time. I followed his stuff, obviously. I'd love to hear where he thought
He comes out hot sometimes.
Yeah,
he
he can get a little
that.
fiery.
Yeah.
You know, I see him at the. I've heard some stories about the youth football games and him coaching, and he gets into it, and I love it. So that has nothing to do with his takes, but I'll be interested to see what he feels like he messed up in 2025. Both with everybody. I like this topic and I like this exercise, so we're going to continue that here on Toucher and Hardy. New Year's Eve. Mark Dundaro, Andrew Callahan, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Essential Sports Hub headline presented by Celsius Energy Drink.
friend describes himself in 7 words.
A guy in tights and a cape.
And Hardy with blunt honesty.
I am not known as Mr. Fun.
Toucher and Hardy continues on the Sports Hub.
Or opinion that my worst take of the year was probably when I spit during the show. I don't know if you caught wind of that.
I did.
Yeah. I disagree. Worst decision? Maybe. Probably.
Is that a pun, though? Worst take is a spit take?
Maybe.
Is that what they're saying?
I guess. But my point is, I just wanted to clarify, probably my worst decision. However, the take was not wrong. If you recall, I was reacting to the fact that NFL, I think it was a Burt Breer poll that he put out there, that NFL executives, I forget what the numbers were, but they had very little respect for Drake May in terms of winning the MVP. Like one person out of 35 or something voted May as the winner of the MVP, and I was disgusted. That's what led to the spit take, or the spit, whatever. So the take was correct. I should have been disgusted because he's going to win the award. I shouldn't have spit, but I should have been disgusted. And with that, let's bring in Alex Barth of 98.5 The Sports Hub. Happy New Year, Alex, and thanks for joining us here on the Takies.
Happy New Year. What's up, guys?
Okay, so we can't see what you're wearing. We assume you've dressed for the occasion. Thank you. First, before we get to the worst take of 2025, we were talking about, I just mentioned the MVP. Based on what you've seen and what happened on Monday Night Football, I don't want to know what you would do, but what do you think the voters will do for the MVP award as we go forward here?
I mean, if we go based off what they did last year, it's probably going to be Matthew Stafford, that Lifetime Achievement Award thing, and Lamar Jackson was significantly statistically better than Josh Allen. So, if they go off last year, it's Matthew Stafford. If they correct course, though, it should be Drake May.
So I read that as almost voter fatigue with Lamar Jackson, in the same way that, look, this statistical case was closer, but you go to the NBA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander won against Jokic, who probably had a slightly better statistical case, but everyone's tired of kind of watching the same movie, which ends with Jokic raising the MVP trophy. That felt to me like Lamar Jackson, raising another MVP is just a little boring, not to mention the team was better. So I see this as 60-40 May, frankly. The one thing, of course, would be the strength of schedule, but I don't know how many people outside of New England have been paying attention to that, to me, because that's the biggest case against May, I think.
So I think that's part of it, too. I've compared Josh Allen's MVP to Joel Embiid's MVP a couple of years ago. The strength of schedule thing, to me, and I don't know how voters will look at it, but that, to me, should offset. And it's not like Drake May has a bad supporting cast, but you look at who Stafford's throwing to, and Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua, and that run game has been a lot more consistent than the Patriots. To me, those should almost cancel each other out.
Is there anything that could happen Sunday? Sorry, Mark.
No.
That where Drake could lose it? Or, I guess you think Matthew Stafford is going to do it, but could the award hinge on what happens Sunday one way or another?
Yeah, we saw how reactionary it was Monday night. It was funny. I saw somebody, I forget who, it was some national media person was asked, like, is Matt Stafford a Hall of Famer? And I think he is. I think he is at this point, but he was like, I don't know, like the MVP would really help his case. And if you go by the live odds, which I know some people have, placed different value in, like he was kind of trending, even late in that game with the 3 picks, was trending towards becoming the favorite again, because I think people, the 21-point comeback, never mind why they were down 21 points, the 21-point comeback would have been the cap on it. And then he misses that throw in overtime that probably would have been a touchdown to end it, and the odds plummeted again. And it's crazy to think of the butterfly effect of, okay, he missed that throw, so they lost the game, which means he didn't get the comeback for the MVP award, which might be the one he needed to get him in the Hall of Fame. So does that one throw keep him out of Canton? Like, it's just kind of crazy how reactionary this could all be, not just to one game, but to one throw.
Yeah, but I love it. I think that's awesome that all that seems to be at stake based off of one throw. And just a quick note, because you talked about this, we've all talked about this, some of the weapons and the supporting cast that he has. Puka Nacua, the fastest player ever to 300 catches in NFL history. So that obviously helps the quarterback when a guy is that productive and that good.
This conversation makes me think that Matthew Stafford takes up an inordinate amount of Alex Barth's brain. Like, just to go all the way to his future in Canton, to go back to certain cases. You like some Matthew Stafford, no?
Well, I'm a fan of his. I just thought it was, because we got we had the Hall of Fame announcement coming. It was just, I saw that, and it was crazy to think about. Like, because I've had this thought for a long time about different players, right? And when do we start, at some point you don't talk about a player as a Hall of Famer, and then at a point you do. And so what is that point? I've always wondered this for player to player. And everybody has a different point. Or like with Brady, like people say, well, when did you like say, okay, yes, he's the greatest of all time? And I think for most people, it's the Seahawks Super Bowl, the Falcons Super Bowl. But like, it's crazy to kind of see it boiled down to that. Like, when did this guy become a Hall of Famer in your eyes? Can you really boil it down to a single play or a single game? It's kind of nuts to think about.
All right, so from the greatest to the worst, Alex Barth, what was your worst take in your rise of 2025?
So it's funny because you asked me this. I was on last week with Matt Dolph, and me and him do a annual Patriots preview show the night of Labor Day. And so we were going through some old clips from the show, and we were doing a whole segment on what we got right and what we got wrong. And there was one, I don't know if you guys have the audio of it. I know it's in there. I did not remember saying this. I almost did a spit take, Mark, when I heard it because I couldn't believe I said it. When we were going through the schedule and doing the wins and losses, I called the Jets and Giants games. I believe the term I used was toss-ups.
I love it. In defense of that, Alex.
Well, no. We're not going to defend him right away. We're going to fact check him because your partner is here with us.
Yeah.
And I would like Matt Doloff to correct Alex if he's wrong. Was that the worst take? Because I, as someone who picked the Giants, took a lot of heat for it, deserved it, don't think that's that bad. I think you got something worse. Does he?
I don't know if he has anything worse. He did say the toss-up thing.
Okay.
That mic definitely doesn't work.
Remember that.
Hold on. I don't think that mic works.
Oh, is he in the middle, Mike? Yeah, that one's not working.
Okay. Thanks, Mark.
Glad we fixed that.
Yeah, no, he definitely said the toss-up thing. We talked about it for maybe a good 5 minutes. How can we call the Jets a toss-up? Like, never in their history have the Jets been a toss-up. So, I don't know if he had a worse take. I don't have all his takes logged in my brain, but that was pretty good.
All right. Not bad. So our worst takes here so far, we have I'm gonna take mine down to 2. The Crafts wouldn't fire Gerard Mayo. Celtics were a lock for their under at 41 wins. Marks is one and done. It's too good.
It's explosive.
Yes. Drake May lost the MVP 10 days ago. With about 4 or 5 days away from cementing it. Alex Barth calling the Patriots-Jets game a toss-up. Those are our nominees here so far from the Takies. Any quick hit Patriots thought before we let you go, Alex?
Well, I'll just since you said it might not have been close enough, I had the Jets and Giants as toss-ups. Any other thought? I'm interested to see how this week goes. I've seen a lot of people hype up the Chargers as a potential first-round matchup. I respect the Chargers. I think they're a good team. I think the Texans and Bills provide a different level of challenge. I still think, it's not to say the Chargers are bad, but I still think the Chargers are, of the realistic first-round matchups, the easiest matchup by a margin for the Patriots in the first round.
All right, Alex Barth joining us here on the Takies with a hot take that did not go well, especially when you get it wrong on the Jets. I feel like that stings even more. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I only had all of history to use as reference. I don't know why I didn't.
Right. That's okay.
Check that.
All
Thanks,
right,
pal. Happy
Alex
New Year.
Barth, thanks for calling in, Alex. Happy New Year.
Thanks, guys.
All right, when we get back, Matt Doloff will take us down his road of bad takes, worst takes from 2025, which we're looking forward to. Mark Dundare, Andrew Callahan, Toucher and Hardy, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
You're listening to Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
All right, gentlemen, 2026 is here, and while you're probably wanting to improve your health because you're getting older, how to do so? Well, listen, if energy level is a problem, sexual desire is a problem, building muscle is not as easy as it used to be, that comes with aging, but what also comes with aging is the loss of testosterone. That's right. Our bodies stop making as much testosterone as a rule as they used to. Now, how to get past this, how to improve this. Well, you call Northeast Men's Health today at 617-793-5000, or you visit them at northeastmenshealth.com. Make an appointment at one of the 6 locations.
light and air. 98.5, the Sports Hub.
It's, an electrifying award show here on New Year's Eve. 98.5 the Sports Hub, going over some of our worst takes. Mine was on December 14th, emphatically declaring that the MVP for Drake May was off the table. Andrew had a couple he didn't like, or he thought that, that the Patriots were going to retain Gerard Mayo?
Yeah, Kraft, we're not going to fire Gerard Mayo, and the Celtics were a lock for this under.
That's right, the lock. And now we're joined by Matt Doloff, who is coming with his worst take of 2025. Welcome, Matt, to the show.
What's up?
What do you have?
All right, so my takes, I go back to that same show that Alex Barth was referencing, our Patriots preseason show, because we always make predictions, near the end of the show.
A breeding ground for bad takes.
Exactly, yeah. It's a petri dish for takes right there. So I want to give you two, because I think my actual worst take is not necessarily Patriots related. My Patriots take was, I think the run defense is going to suck, specifically because of Milton Williams. That whole take.
Crazy.
It is. That take blew up in my face. I can't believe how well he played against the run specifically and how great they've been against the run, overall this season. But that wasn't my worst take, gentlemen. I think my worst take was my Super Bowl pick. I had the Minnesota Vikings in the Super Bowl against the Cincinnati Bengals.
That's crazy.
And I said, but no, here's the cherry on top. I said, and I quote, I'm a believer in J.J. McCarthy. So I think you got to let that sink in.
That's the one right there. That's the one right there. And that's, I think when you have a really bad quarterback take, I respect that because that takes it to another level. And I think that's a huge part of what we do, all this talking, the Talk Sports radios. You really got to get, and I remember saying this when the Patriots, we're not talking about 2024 here, but when the Patriots were looking at a quarterback, I remember saying, we need to all be on the record with who we think and what we think they should do. Because you knew that was going to be a big moment for the organization, for all of us. We're not talking about that year, but I appreciate a bad quarterback take.
So any other day of the calendar year, Mark, I love the energy. Oh, I understand. There's some empathy. We should be on the record. You stood by it. Here you are. It's not the spirit of the takies. The spirit of the takies is to rub all of our noses in it, to put our faces down in the bleep, and just to eat it. That's what this is. So Vikings Bengals Super Bowl. This is a big J.J. McCarthy pick, right, in belief.
Sure.
When did you know over under like week 3 this wasn't going to happen?
Well, when Burrow got hurt, the Bengals were out. But, yeah, I couldn't believe the Vikings after 1 week, J.J. McCarthy had that comeback, if you remember. Week 1, I was like, oh, I'm looking pretty good here. But then, yeah, they just spiraled pretty early on. I couldn't believe they still have a really good team. They have a really good defense. I just thought, look, I didn't think J.J. McCarthy was going to be like the best quarterback in the league or anything. I just thought he had a great head coach, great team around him. They were going to put him in position to succeed. He was going to make plays in the big moment. I basically thought J.J. McCarthy was going to do kind of what Bo Nix is doing this year for the Broncos.
Crazy.
Thank you. I thought the Vikings were basically going to be the Broncos this year. And, yeah, the whole thing blew up in my face. I'm not ruling out that J.J. McCarthy could still be a good quarterback because, anybody could have one bad year. Anybody could have one good year. I don't like writing off quarterbacks after 1 year, whether it's good or bad. So, I think the Super Bowl take is out.
All right,
but we'll see how it goes next year.
That's fair. Maybe I should have asked about the Bengals defense. Did you feel aggrieved watching them give up 40 points a game for a stretch there, which is like a month and a half?
Yeah, I was like, they can't possibly be worse than last year. I can't believe this is worse than it's going last year. I couldn't believe it. I just wanted to be different. I didn't want the Chiefs to be in there. I didn't want to pick the Bills. You know, I didn't want to pick the Eagles again. So I just wanted to do something different. I thought the Vikings had a chance to maybe take a step forward. I thought J.J. McCarthy could have been an upgrade over Sam Darnold. Boy, was I wrong.
They've given up 29.5 points per game. Man, Cincinnati owes you one.
Oh, yeah.
I like that,
for
though.
Sure.
Let me ask you something about hockey, though, because you are another glue guy around here. And I'm curious, as someone who has watched maybe 30 seconds of the Bruins, can you just catch me up to speed? Like, Mark and I started the show talking about a relationship that went sour. Marco Sturm's back, honeymoon period. I know they had a win streak there, some tough stretch. Describe the Bruins season as like a relationship for me and where we are right now.
Overall, honestly, I think Marco Sturm's done a pretty good job. I think lately this latest stretch has maybe soured that a little bit because they've, lost 6 in a row. They've fallen out of the playoff race. But, just the fact that they're sort of in that mix, I think that's a reflection on the coaching. I think that's a reflection on him having the guys, buying in to what they need to do. But I think the problem is first-year head coach, you probably got to work on getting the message through. I don't know that he's sort of all the way there as far as getting everyone to, grasp everything that they're trying to do. I don't think he's instructing Nikita Zadorov to turn the puck over at his own blue line. I don't think he's instructing defensemen.
It's encouraging.
I don't think he's instructing Mason Lowry to try to pass it in front of his own net, trying to get a breakout going.
Knock it till you try it.
So, yeah, right. So I think part of it is that they don't have all the personnel that fit exactly what they want to do defensively, which is, tight checking, which is, I think, in previous years they wanted to be more of a breakout-oriented defense, move your feet, get the puck out of the zone. This team, I think they want to be more physical. They want to limit your time and space. I think they still need to get the personnel that sort of fits what they want to do. But I think overall, Marco Sturm's kind of held it together. I just think, Water's starting to find its level offensively. They've been a top 10 goal-scoring team, which nobody thought was going to happen. It probably shouldn't happen. They probably should fall out of the top 10 at some point. Morgan Geekie, he's having an unbelievable year. I don't think anyone saw that coming. So the way they've gotten there hasn't been how anyone expected.
Yeah, I'll just say this: it's a bad situation when you're expected to be bad, and then we have a takeys like this, and there's not a lot of bad takes on the expectation of being bad. Maybe a month ago, we might have had more of those where we thought that the Bruins, and you just said they're still, scoring goals, sort of. Statistically, they're okay. It's kind of going in the wrong direction. Morgan Geekie hasn't been as productive scoring goals recently, but you'd like to have more bad takes about a team that was expected to be bad. So
right. They weren't, that wasn't really a team that you could have hot takes about going into the year. There was Ty and I on the Sports Hub Underground podcast, subscribe and download that. We thought that they would be, mediocre in the playoff race. I think Ty has been insistent that they're going to be the first team out of the wild card race. So they're right in there. But, unless you're saying they're going to win the Stanley Cup, which we did not say.
Nobody would do that. And we're not regretting not doing that either.
Right.
Whatever. Okay. Matt Doloff joining us. Thanks so much for the takes. You're on 10 to 2 today?
Yes, me and Ty from 10 to 2.
All right, 10 to 2, Matt and Ty Anderson in the midday. Matt, thanks so much. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming by the
Toucher and Hardy. Mark Dundare, Andrew Callahan will be back. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
From the Tell Your Tire Studios, WBZ-FM and HD1.
It's not just the games. It's Toucher and Hardy, Zolak and Bertrand, Felger and Maz, Joe Murray. For Boston sports fans, it's 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Beasley Media Group Station.
Sports Hub headlines. Presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
The Celtics enjoyed a big second half last night as the C's took down the Jazz 129-119 in Utah. Jaylen Brown, 23 points, 10 assists. Derek White, 27.7 blocks as Boston ended 2025 the right way. C's will be back on the floor New Year's Day night in Sacramento to face the Kings. Patriots receiver Stefon Diggs charged on Tuesday with felony strangulation or suffocation and misdemeanor assault and battery stemming from an alleged incident on December 2nd. The Patriots have since released a statement which they said, quote, the New England Patriots are aware of the accusations that have been made regarding Stefon Diggs. Stefon has informed the organization that he categorically denies the allegations. We support Stefon, close quote. Mike Vrabel is expected and scheduled to talk to the media at 1:10 p.m. today. More news involving the Diggs family. Stefon's brother, Trayvon Diggs, was released by the Dallas Cowboys on Tuesday. The two-time Pro Bowl cornerback will be a free agent if he isn't claimed off of waivers. And the college football playoff resumes tonight with Miami taking on Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. Ohio State is a 9.5-point favorite in that one. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Awaken 180. Happy holidays from Paige and the entire Awaken 180 team, wishing you a season full of joy, good health, and happiness in the new year. I'm Mark Dundare for Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Next update, 30 minutes or so.
The Bruins play here.
My buddy and me. With friends like these.
To climb up a tree.
Yeah, you know.
We're the best friends you can be, my buddy and me.
Now, more of your best morning buddies. Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
Already announced that they will not play Justin Herbert. Jim Harbaugh saying that his quarterback will sit, which makes it really difficult for anybody to believe. I mean, it could happen, but the Chargers most likely are going to be in a tough spot in their effort to beat the Denver Broncos. I think that game is in Denver. Denver trying to wrap up the number one seed in the AFC. With that being the case and the reality of this situation, Is there any particular way, Andrew, you would handle Sunday from a Patriots perspective and who will play, how much they'll play, etc.?
Yes. I'm going to scoreboard watch. And this is not an approach I like teams to take, but I think about where the Patriots are health-wise, right? You just had Kayshon Boutte sit out. You had Harold Landry sit out. Milton Williams still hasn't come back. There are a lot of guys either looking to knock some rust off. Will Campbell could play on Sunday. Looks like he should, at least based on what we've heard. He'll practice for the first time today. Point is, you need to get some run, but if Drake May is out there in the third quarter and you look up at the out-of-town scoreboard and it says Broncos 27, Chargers 3, why is Drake May on the field? Because the reason you want to win that game Sunday, in addition to obviously play well going to the playoffs, is the number 1 seed. That number 1 seed has never meant more in the history of the NFL than it does now under this format. One team gets a free pass to the wild card round. And if the Patriots are not able to get that free pass, you need to win 3 straight games to get to the Super Bowl against teams that are all as good as you, or at least in the neighborhood. They're down the street. It's the same cul-de-sac. It's the AFC this year. There's no one way up on the hill. We got to go chase them down. So if you need to win 3 straight games, my thinking is I need to be as healthy as possible. Where you play the games, who you play matters a lot less if I can't count on Harold Landry and Milton Williams to give me some good pass rush. If Will Campbell's not himself, I need those guys healthy. So even if it's antithetical to this competitive culture and we got to win and we're going to earn everything under Mike Vrabel, which has been great, you need to understand the only way to earn a Super Bowl run then is to win 3 straight games. You need to be at your best and your healthiest in order to do that. Sit the guys in the second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter if the Denver score warrants it.
And with that being said, it is worth. Obviously, this is the NFL. It'll be Trey Lance, as far as my understanding goes, that will start for the Chargers. It's unlikely. Historically, obviously, Denver's been a very significant home field advantage, but it's not like this team, the Broncos, is a juggernaut with the elites of the elite playing quarterback, and they've got a great coach. I get that. Their defense has been really good. You just never know. It's a division game. Weird things happen. You don't know a ton about Trey Lance. I'm not suggesting they're not going to try to win the game, but it's just not going to be the starting quarterback. So it'll also be. I am going to keep one eye on what the Bills do, just because I'm not convinced they might. Just based on what happened last year, I don't know how they're going to play that game against the Jets. I don't know.
The more I think about that game, the more absurd that it gets, right? Like, we understand the consequences of what happened, and the Patriots win, and they don't get the number 1 pick, and maybe it turns out to be a blessing that you're stuck at 4, and you have to take Will Campbell, and it looks like you have a left tackle of the future. Great, especially considering what Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter have or haven't done to this point. That aside, the Bills tried harder to lose and did that against maybe the worst team in football last year. I don't think they're going to do that against the Jets, who can't get the number 1 pick, but will be top 3. And so, for me, I look and go, I do think the Bills part is interesting. It's just so much more about their health, especially considering just the cascade of injuries. Now, to your point about Trey Lance and the backup Chargers, like, Jim Harbaugh, when he made that announcement, really caught me by surprise. Not because I wouldn't sit Justin Herbert, but because Jim Harbaugh is a freaking maniac.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's such a floor raiser with that team. So whatever you think of the Chargers, I understand their history, but that is at least a well-coached team that very often you need to knock out before they knock themselves out. So in Denver, I will just remind you, as the Patriots are now AFC East champions, you remember the last time they were division champs?
2019.
Yep. Do you remember that season finale here?
The season finale, I don't remember.
So they beat the Bills. It was a Saturday night. Christmas happened. Their last game was against Miami. The Patriots needed to win to get a bye, which was then the number 2 seed.
Yeah.
The Dolphins came in as 17-point underdogs, and they left as winners, which is to say we all looked at that game and be like, can we just fast forward? Can we get to the end of this? And I don't know what the spread is in Denver, and I know Trey Lance is no good, and it's a different team at a different time, but anything goes in the NFL. So when I say scoreboard watch, it's not just, sit the guys as fast as possible. There's a chance you win Sunday for the Patriots, and that gets you the number 1 seed because what you talked about, Denver's no world beater, and this is still the NFL with the team that has enough backups that are going to try, and maybe the Chargers pull it off. We just don't know.
What was the name? Can you remind me of the name of the wide receiver?
Devontae Parker.
Parker was cooking Gilmore that day. I could not believe did he play for the Patriots at one point?
Yeah.
He did.
They traded for him 3 years later.
Yeah.
And this was the big victory or point for Matt Patricia, which is what Belichick had said, or Matt Corral, I can't remember. But it revealed, like, as soon as the Dolphins acquired Tyreek Hill, it was like, oh, we might be able to get Devontae Parker. And the Dolphins said, sure, here you go. It was like a mid-round pick swap.
I could not believe
but in that
what he
game,
was doing to Stefon Gilmore that day.
Punked the defensive player of the year on that last drive. And Mike Gesicki had the last touchdown, but you're right. It was Parker up and down the field, jump balls, go balls. And there's some stuff around that game, by the way, that I'd heard in the lead-up where players were not particularly happy with Bill's approach to practice that week. Thought it was a little too much around Christmas, a little too physical. And that's not to explain why they were worn down and got beat by the tanking Dolphins at that point.
So that means to me that Brady wasn't all that.
I mean, he was – people forget.
Yeah.
Brady was among the worst statistical quarterbacks in the league in the second half of that season. Like, there was –
very ornery.
Just separate from the personality stuff or his mood, he just wasn't that good.
Okay.
Like the number of points they weren't scoring. But the point is, the vibes were not good around that team, and they were at their lowest point when you lose to a team that cost you a bye and then set you up for failure against the Titans, who of course knock you out and end the dynasty. So
okay, so just to reset the Patriots playoff scenarios.
Yes.
They win. If they win, the Broncos lose. They get the 1 seed and the bye. If the Patriots win, the Broncos win against the Chargers, and the Bills win against the Jets, the Patriots will then host the Chargers. Okay,
that's the most likely scenario.
Most likely scenario.
Yeah.
Then there's other scenarios. If the Patriots lose and the Broncos win against the Chargers and the Bills win and the Titans win against the Jaguars and the Colts win against the Texans, I mean, we don't need to get – they'll face the Jaguars. Patriots lose, Chargers win, Bills win, Titans win, and Texans win. We're not going down this road because it just gets too complicated.
It'll be the Chargers most likely.
Most likely.
After that, you're looking at the Bills and maybe the Texans. And I think the reverse order would be the teams that I would want to see. And I've been keep Josh Allen away from me as long as possible. Like I put it like this. Would I rather the Patriots have to stop Josh Allen in a tight game and a game-winning drive with their defense, or would I rather ask Drake May to go down the field against the Texans defense? I'd rather the latter, meaning I would rather face Houston ultimately based on that criteria. I've come around, though. Houston's won 8 straight, beat the Jags. They just beat the Chargers, beat the Niners earlier this year. There's another playoff team in the AFC that they beat that's escaping me now. But the point is, that's probably the most well-rounded team with the best unit in the entire AFC. And they can press your buttons as the Patriots with their pass rush in a way that the Bills can't. I know it's going to be a shootout with the Bills. There's more 10-point loss potential there to Houston, even coming in here based on how good that team is and how much more talented I think they are than even Buffalo.
Especially if C.J. Stroud's going to make plays down the field. That would be not what I'd be interested in.
With a good receiving core.
Yeah.
Like, this is not, hey, Christian Gonzalez, go take out the one receiver. They've got a deep receiving core. Plus Dalton Schultz. Like, they're not infallible, don't get me wrong. But the running game is better than it's been. They might be the best team in the AFC right now.
Let's get a phone call. A caller wants to participate in the Takies. Charlie in Cranston. Hey, Charlie, good morning.
Hey, after the Chargers beat the Chiefs at the beginning of the year, and then watching the Pats lose to the Raiders, I emailed Felger saying I wanted the Harbaugh experience instead of the Vrabel experience, and that turned out to be pretty poor.
That's a bad take considering what Mike Vrabel has done. Really checked every box. Yeah, disgusting. I mean, I was disgusted by the Raiders game. I'm not going to lie. But in looking at it from the perspective that we have available to us now, not a good take.
Bad take. I appreciate you coming down on Charlie, by the way, as opposed to propping him up. You've been a very nice guy. That's not what the Takies are about. Charlie, I appreciate your openness and accountability. Jim Harbaugh, by the way, I still think is clearly a top 10 coach. Like, Chargers are 11-5 with one of the league's worst offensive lines. And I get Justin Herbert's there, but he's put good coaching staff around them. Just very knee-jerk reaction of you. Maybe even skip the knee part. Just kind of a jerk take. But Charlie, our first submission, I'm going to count that for the Takies. We have a nominee.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
Sounds good. We're going to have more nominees when we get back. We're going to talk to the likes of Chris Cotillo, Ian Brown, and more. Mark Dondero, Andrew Callahan, Toucher and Hardy, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
You're listening to Toucher and Hardy on the
Thanks for joining us. Well, let me ask you this before we get into the takeys and your worst take of 2025, which we're looking forward to. I'd like to know what's your temperature on the Red Sox right now, because honestly, Chris, I thought they had built some nice momentum in 2025, especially towards the end of the season, leading up to the postseason. I'm not feeling as good going into 2026. Should I feel a little bit better than I do?
Yeah, I mean, I think the market for a lot of these high-end free agent position players hasn't moved since Alonso and Schwarber. So Bichette, Bregman, not two guys they're obviously in on, and plus, Tucker and Bellinger, Ketel Marte, all those guys, have not moved. So until they do, it's tough to see this Red Sox offseason being over. I still think they have one more big move in them. And then it comes down to the question of, is the four-pack of one of those guys, Wilson Contreras, Sonny Gray, and Johan Oviedo, good enough for fans? And I think there's going to be some that say yes, some that say no. I know I'm obviously kind of projecting that they do get one of these bigger free agents, whether it be Bregman or Bichette or whatever. But we've seen, I think, baseball's offseason works against all these teams where fans get impatient. I think fans were hoping they'd have more done by now. The reality is, there's still a lot of really good players left, even 6 weeks before spring training.
Chris, thanks for joining us. When I decided we would celebrate the worst of Boston sports media with the Takeys, you're the first person I thought of, so I'm glad we could arrange this.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Spots do remain in case you want to approve for 2026.
That's right.
Just give me this is a question I hate answering, so I'm going to ask it of you. A percentage, Alex Bregman, of him returning this year. Where are we at, or you can give me a range?
Yeah, I mean, I think, somewhere right around 45 to 50%, just because, once the guy is on the open market and there's other teams, there's always a lot of variables. And I think Arizona's motivated, and I think, Detroit could jump in, even though they've been lukewarm to this point, and the Cubs and the Blue Jays. He does seem to have some suitors, and I do think the one thing the Red Sox don't have going for them there is they probably don't have the willingness to go as long in terms of term as a lot of these other clubs do. I doubt that they want to go, 6 years for him. They want to keep it short like they, are trying to do with every free agent. And if another team blows them away with a big deal at 5 years or 6 years, he could walk, then it's all about the pivot. So I get their concerns from that perspective, but, there's the adage about if you don't get uncomfortable and don't get silly on your free agent offers, you're never going to land a guy, and we've seen that kind of play out here the last 2 years.
Okay, so the Red Sox have been at the foundation of a lot of takes this year, good and bad, and here we are in the middle of the takeys. And now, Chris Cotillo, what was your worst take of 2025?
Yeah, this is actually a super easy poll because I just went back, and on January 2nd, I did 25 predictions for the 2025 Red Sox from Mass Live. The 22nd of those 25 predictions was, drum roll please, Rafael Devers takes a major step forward in terms of leadership for this team.
That's crazy.
So, but you know what? Actually, it says he takes a major step forward in terms of leadership. I didn't specify which team that would be for. So there is, I mean, I don't know about if he made strides in the last couple months with San Francisco. Plus, at the time when I graded myself on that take a few days ago, there was, 4 more days for him to be named captain of the Red Sox. So, but yeah, it's tough to beat that necessarily. In the blurb on that, I said, the Red Sox are going to challenge him. That, I guess, happened, but tough to beat that.
Look, I've heard great things about Devers on the beach. He's leading a lot of volleyball games right now. The leadership in the offseason is at an all-time high, so he can't fault you. Man, that's rough. Do you have predictions coming up for 2026, by the way?
Yeah, I mean, but now, where's the credibility to even do them,
I mean, come on. You give 25. We all get turn the punch bowl here and there. Can we get one?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they are going to have an award winner. The Red Sox are going to have a major award winner, whether it be a Cy Young, a Rookie of the Year, or an MVP for the first time in a little bit here. So obviously, haven't fully thought out exactly which one that'll be, but that'll probably portend a pretty good year.
So you heard it here first. Chris Cotillo, Roman Anthony MVP, Garrett Crochet, Cy Young in 2026. I love it.
Not as much as I love the take of Devers, because not only I was waiting for the word leadership, and the fact that he threw that in there is so he could have said he's going to take a step forward or whatever. Leadership, and then John Henry has to go to Kansas City to mitigate some situation, ends up getting rid of him for nothing. So much for the leadership. Awful take. I love it.
Do you want to correct me because I put words in your mouth?
Me? No, I think you. I think you. I mean, it's going to be one of those, not all of them.
Okay.
We'll see what happens. All right, Chris Cotillo, thanks so much for your time and for joining us here on the Takies.
Appreciate you, bud. Happy New Year.
Thanks, guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Let's go right into Ian Brown of MLB.com, who is joining us. And Ian, thanks for joining us, first of all, and participating in the Takies. But we were just talking to Chris Cotillo of Mass Live. I just want to ask, I'm really put off, and have been for a while, by the offseason of Major League Baseball and the slog in which some of these, dating back to Bryce Harper years ago. Why can't they figure out a way to make it a little bit more compelling and get things done sooner?
It's a great question. It really is quite the slog, and it just drags on and on and on. And here we are approaching January 1st and waiting to see, where Alex Bregman is going to go, where Bo Bichette is going to go, and some of the top players in baseball. You're right. They need to figure out a way. The problem is that, it's something that the players union and MLB have to kind of agree on. And, it's just it's a tough spot for everyone. Nobody likes it. Fans don't like it. Executives don't like it. Media doesn't like it. Just find a way to speed this up and make it exciting.
Ian, thanks for joining us on short notice. It's good to talk to you, and especially, it's kind of wash our mouth at Cotillo there right after a couple of minutes ago. But look, he gave the odds of Bregman coming back 45, 50%. That says a coin flip. Let's say it lands on Bregman being elsewhere next season. What is the pivot? Who do you see as the most likely ad, if any, on the market that they could have as far as a bat goes?
Yeah, it's going to be really tough if they don't get Bregman at this point. I think that, the only way to really save face at that point is to just go all in on Bo Bichette, who's 27 years old. The only really remaining free agent who can do what Bregman does offensively. I think that, they really need to get Bregman or Bichette at this point, I would say.
I think it would be a disaster. Chris Cotillo was talking about one more big move. If they don't make that one more big move, Ian and Andrew, I will classify it as a disastrous offseason, not a good one. Coming off of the year they had, I thought they were in for a bigger offseason. Okay, but speaking of bigger and better and worse, let's talk about the takies. And Ian Brown, your worst take from 2025 was what?
Oh, boy. I mean, I really bought into all the Tristan Casas is going to be a monster hype, that he was going to hit between 30 and 40 home runs, and that just he got off to a disastrous start. People forget that he was off to a terrible start even before the injury there. So that was a bad take. Honorable mention, I thought Liam Hendricks was going to be the closer. So he wound up having a terrible season, and Aroldis Chapman was the best closer in baseball. So those are two really bad ones right there.
Okay, Ian, I love it. I appreciate you making some time as we celebrate the worst of Boston sports media in 2025. I wish you a better 2026 and maybe some beers down the road, all right?
Thank you. That sounds great.
Thanks, Ian. Happy New Year. We that's brutal. Especially, from my perspective, it's especially brutal just because I've never been a big supporter of Tristan Casas's game. So that's really bad that he leans so heavy. And I know people do it and people like him, and I don't know, analytics. That he leans so heavily into Casas. That's so bad. It's a bad one.
40 home runs is a lot. And he said 30 to 40, so we're going to be fair to Ian. And again, everyone taking time today. I just don't know what it is, but I mean, you're asking a guy to be available consistently, to hit his peak, do something unprecedented right away that says, like, you're not just among the best first basemen in the game.
Yeah.
40 home runs, 35 home runs. You're among the best hitters in the game, which is a lot to ask of a guy who, by the way, like, people upset about the nail polish, this, whatever. The thing that annoyed me is that you have a carefully curated documentary. Netflix is around, and I know they had to leave 2 months earlier, whatever it was, because they ran out of money. I left that documentary, which should have been set up to like the Red Sox more than I did as a fan, the last team I root for in this town, and don't cover. Mm-hmm. liking him less. That shouldn't happen.
No,
I understand he was an interesting character in that. I was annoyed by him. And when you get to that point, you have to perform better. Otherwise, the off-field stuff for the reasons that you're annoying become front and center. You know what I mean? Like the better you are, the longer leash you get for whatever else is off the field, and his leash is pretty much up.
Let's take a quick phone call. RJ on Cape Cod wants to be in the Takies. RJ, thanks for participating.
Hi. So I love my takes. Some hit, some don't. This was a pretty brutal one. I said that Josh McDaniels should run an offense similar to how he ran with Cam Newton than Tom Brady for Drake May.
Could not be further from correct. Drake May had the one identity the Patriots have solidified over the course of the year is their ability to throw the ball down the field, be dynamic, and that is as bad of a take as you could have because that would have been the opposite of what they are and what they've done. So bad take there by RJ.
Well, let's measure just how bad it is, and we appreciate him coming in. Oh, Patriots, by the way, number 1 by EPA per play offensively. That is news to me. I know they've been top 5. Passing, drop back EPA this season, they are second with Drake May running this offense. So he wanted to limit the passing offense, RJ did, in a way that would have had screens, a lot of which went into the dirt, as we remember, though Cam Newton's completion percentage that year was 68, more interceptions and touchdowns, yada, yada. But a very condensed, bad drop-back offense, which that year was 27th in the league with Cam Newton. They are second running the offense that is expounded on what Tom Brady did, frankly, because you got a lot more bootleg and some play-action concepts. Anyway, stuff we talked about before. But RJ, love the honesty. All right, a quick recap, because I know we're going to break soon. So here are what we have for the nominees for the Takey so far. My take, I'm going to pick my Celtics one. Not bad Patriots takes. I've written about them. We can find them.
Yeah, the Celtics was probably the one. That's the one. That's a big.
I said they were a lock. A play-in team at best.
For me.
The third-place team in the league right now, I said was going to win somewhere in the 30s in terms of total wins. They're on a 52-win pace right now. You, December 14th, Drake May, out of the MVP race.
Off the table.
Forget it. You can close down the trophy case. He's not going to get it. He is now the favorite, according to DraftKings, minus 295. Alex Barth, back in Labor Day, drinking a lot, as we all were. But he said this, those Jets and Giants games, toss-ups, Patriots, just a coin flip. The Jets, Alex Barth. Matt Doloff in that same podcast goes, Super Bowl, book it. Vikings, Bengals. Those teams right now have combined to lose 18 games. Neither of them are going to the playoffs or look like they will be contenders next year, but we'll see. Charlie called in. He wanted Jim Harbaugh over Mike Vrabel after 1 week. 1 week, yeah. Charlie? By the way, week 1, I say it every year, the most anticipated and least telling week of the year. If you don't watch football, which is hard after 8 months of not watching football, that would be the week to do it, though, because it's not going to tell you anything. Cotillo, this is, I don't know what the odds would be on DraftKings. This is up there. Rafael Devers will take a step forward with his leadership in the Red Sox clubhouse. And sticking with the Red Sox, Ian Brown of MLB.com. Again, thanks to Chris and Ian. We're busting balls with those guys. Yeah. We appreciate them making time. Tristan Casas is going to be, in his words, a, quote, monster, end quote, hitting between 30 and 40 home runs. I mean, Tristan Casas didn't have 40 hits, I don't think,
when you
year.
say that one out loud, it's worse than I thought. It's worse than I initially thought.
RJ wanted Josh McDaniels to run his Cam Newton offense, which, again, led to and part of this is personnel and whatever, pass offense that was ranked 27th back in 2020, as opposed to the offense he's running now, more Tom Brady, as far as the scheme, and the Patriots are the second best passing offense in the league doing exactly that.
We're going to go to break real quick. Mark in Medford, I want to get another caller on the board with a takey. Mark, real quick.
Yeah, I got a personal bad take on it, and a lot of radio hosts said the same thing, that when the Patriots schedule first came out, they said, okay, be anywhere between 7-10 or 9-8 at best.
So there it is, a 7-10 Patriots take from Mark in Medford, and that is nice. I mean,
the over/under was 8.5.
Awful. It's awful. 13-3. It's an awful take. All right. When we get back, Mark Daniels of Mass Live joining us with his worst takes 2025 and some other insight as well. Mark Dundare, Andrew Callahan, Toucher and Hardy, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Essential Sports Hub.
and Hardy, Mark Dundaro, Andrew Callahan. Happy New Year. We're in the middle of the takeys. We'll get you caught up on all the horrific takes from 2025. We're looking forward to Mark Daniels sharing his. And speaking of Mark Daniels of Mass Live is joining us now. Mark, Happy New Year. Good to be with you.
Hey guys, Happy New Year.
So I just want to, there's a lot going on, obviously, with the Patriots and the situation. I guess my first question will be this, and we can go into some of the details if you want to expand on some of that. But what are you going to be listening for and looking for, I guess, today when you head to Gillette Stadium and Mike Vrabel is scheduled to meet with the media and we hear from the team directly?
Yeah, I mean, the statement they put out yesterday was really strong. We support Stefon. I thought that was a bit eye-opening. And then I read the police report, and I'm like, man, these allegations are pretty ugly. So for me, it's when Mike Vrabel speaks, will he maintain the same tone? We support Stefon, and is that the company line? And I would hope that the Patriots would have all the details, the information, the police report before making the statement. So that for me, does the tone stay the same? Do they still support Stefon Diggs? Post police report that's been publicly available now.
Yeah, and obviously, Mark, we're in a situation where I've cautioned this. Our guy Mike Reese has cautioned this, and I'm sure you have the same mind. We just have to let this play out. These are allegations for now, which is not to jump to Stefon Diggs' defense. It is not jump to prosecute him. It's just to say we have to sit tight with this uncertainty. I've said earlier in the show, though, I hope Mike Vrabel is a little bit more open than what we heard from Belichick, which is not to be anti-Bill on this. It's just to say that the Patriots put out a statement. What he could do is just say, we put out a statement, that's all I have to say. To me, when your star player who has been propped up as a leader and been a central character and figure and rebuilding a culture is now accused of strangling a woman, again, an allegation, he should address a little bit more than that, specifically because of the strength of the statement you just outlined. Setting the reporter hat aside, what are you hoping to hear from Mike Vrabel?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I mean, what you just said, I mean, it would be nice for him to say something more than just we released a statement when we're standing by that. I would love to hear about, is this a distraction? How do you keep your team focused amidst a huge distraction on a player that you just said is a leader? He's not a captain, but honestly, young players look up to Stefon. And obviously, I would imagine they've known about this for a couple weeks, and Diggs has practiced, he's played, but for a first-time head coach here in New England, how does Mike Vrabel go about managing this, keeping players focused? Because this is something that it can be tough on inexperienced coaches, which Mike is not. So, yeah, I just hope he says something more than the statement, Andrew. I mean, like you said, allegations is serious. We don't know what happened, but it would be nice to talk to a head coach who would just say more than, well, I'm going to stand by the statement.
Yeah, and just to get a little bit closer to the field of play and along the lines of what you just outlined, Mark, where's your level of confidence that the Patriots will be able to handle this type of distraction at this time of year, given the type of season they're having? And I thought it was a good point and something that's worth noting or reiterating. Stefon, we're not talking about just the player on this team. We're talking about one of the leaders on this team being involved in such an ugly situation. We're talking about a guy that has really stepped up over the course of the last couple weeks, who I personally was looking for to have a big role going forward into the playoffs. I'm not saying he won't be available, obviously. That was my expectation before we knew of any of this. And, obviously the quarterback is a big part of your leadership structure. Drake May's a young guy. How do you feel in terms of his ability to manage what will be coming his way in terms of questioning and just the distraction in general?
I think in terms of the questioning stuff, I feel confident Patriots will be able to handle that. They have a really experienced coaching staff. I mean, Josh McDaniels is going to have Drake May ready, regardless of the questions he's asked. I think the thing, though, how do they deal with it? For me, it's can we rule out Stefon Diggs being placed on the commissioner's exempt list? That's what they did with Jabril Peppers. Mm-hmm. I mean, until it doesn't happen, I think you have to be sort of prepared for anything. So for me, it's all right, if Stefon Diggs is practicing, if he's playing, they're going to be able to handle the distraction because he's a good player. He's a veteran. He'll remain focused. I mean, he's been dealing with this for weeks, and he still went out and had 100 receiving yards in the first half in the Jets, even though he's dealing with that stuff in his personal life. So I'm not worried about it as long as he's on the field. But in the situation where the NFL digs deeper and says, you know what, we're going to do to him what we did to Jabril Peppers and put him on the exempt list, at that point I'm concerned because you don't have Matt Collins. And if you don't have Matt Collins and then you don't have Stefon Diggs, I mean, it could be pretty rough sledding if you go up in the playoffs against a tough defense. I mean, again, that's just speculation. Until anything happens, we don't know, and it's hard to comment on. But I think as long as Stefon Diggs is active and on the roster, I see the Patriots managing it just fine. But if you were to tell me that he's not on the roster, I would be very concerned about this team and their ability to move forward.
And it's a good reminder too. Again, the ball is not just in the league's court; it's also in the Patriots' court. They could sit him.
Yeah.
They could tell him to stay home. He could be a healthy scratch for Sunday if they wanted to. Indications of what we have so far, and the most important signs or information is about to come at 1:10 when Mike Vrabel speaks out loud, and we'll take some questions. But the indications from that statement are they're going to stand by him, support him, and he will continue to play. If he doesn't, as you mentioned, the felony charge meets the criteria for the commissioner's exempt list. We don't have a timeline for that. This is very much up to the league. So if the Patriots don't choose to sideline him, it is then up to the NFL. And the consequences of that, I've said, if Stefon Diggs is not playing for however long they're in the playoffs, they can't make the Super Bowl, is how I see it. And it's partly due to the Matt Collins injury you mentioned and the fact the AFC is just so packed. It's not to say that the Patriots can't make a run. It's just I don't see them winning 3 straight playoff games against good teams that are just about as good as they are, if not a little bit worse or a little bit better, maybe in Houston's case, without one of their best players. What say you? What would the consequences be if he does go on the commissioner's exempt list?
The consequence is a first-round exit in the playoffs for me. I mean, I think the AFC is pretty stacked. I think the easiest game is by far the Chargers. Could you beat the Chargers who are pretty banged up? I think so without Stefon Diggs. I think you could, but, could you beat the Texans? Could you beat the Bills without Stefon Diggs? That's where I sort of draw the line. Well, you're now missing, potentially missing 2 out of your top 3 receivers. Who's your number one? Is it Hunter Henry? Is Kayshon Boutte going to be the Kayshon Boutte we saw pre-hamstring injury? Because he hasn't been since. It's, you lose a guy who's by far your best offensive playmaker. It's going to be hard to beat a team with a really good quarterback. I'm not saying Herbert's not. His team's a mess. Or a team with a really good defense. So for me, I think what's on the line is a really quick playoff exit, and we sort of play the what-if game.
And it's also worth noting, and Andrew and I have talked about this, Stefon Diggs obviously arguably at his best in the 2 biggest games the Patriots had this year. So you're obviously going to be a big loss with Hollins being out and all of that. I real quick, just a bigger, wider league picture question. That wasn't phrased well, but I want to know, Mark, on the Ravens. It's an interesting scenario. They could be a playoff team. Lamar Jackson hasn't played. Do you expect? I don't know if I expect him to play this week. Do you expect him to play? And if he does play and they get in, could they be a dangerous team in the AFC?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I haven't been paying attention to much what's going on in Baltimore, but if they have a chance to get in the playoffs, I mean, I would imagine you try to play them, right? They're a team, though, that, I would definitely rather face the Pittsburgh Steelers than the Baltimore Ravens right now, just because it's this time of year. You have Lamar Jackson, you have Derrick Henry. That's a tough team. I mean, the Pats saw that firsthand without Lamar Jackson, that it's a tough team. So I don't want to face them. I think right now you look at the AFC playoff picture, the easiest matchup is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, whatever team is the 5 seed, I want the 5 seed, right? I want to go to Pittsburgh and play that first round because I think that's the most winnable matchup. So, yeah, if Lamar plays this weekend and the Ravens get in, I think it changes the dynamic a little bit, because I think the AFC playoffs already without Pat Mahomes, it looks a little easier without Lamar Jackson. But put Lamar in the fold with Derrick Henry at this time of year with an okay defense, they would definitely be tougher, I think, than an aging Aaron Rodgers.
And just real quick, from a rematch perspective, would you, just because I'm curious, if it comes, and again, a lot has to happen, but if it was
has to happen,
a lot rematch situation, would you, the Patriots versus the Bills, or a down the road rematch with the Ravens, what would make you feel a little bit more uneasy?
The Bills 100% would make me more uneasy because I think Josh Allen is really the only quarterback you can say, he might be better than Drake May right now. And I get that Drake May's had, I think, a better season and better MVP odds, but in the playoffs, I always look at who has the better quarterback, who has the better head coach. The Bills are just an experienced team. And even starting their loss against Philly, they're never out of it. That team scares the crap out of me. I don't want to see the Bills unless it's down the line. And, it'll be interesting playoff seeding for the Pats because if, some way, somehow, you avoid the Bills, and the Bills have to then go to Denver. I think that's by far the easiest path. Give me the Ravens every day over the Bills.
All right, Mark, real quick, and then we're going to get to your worst take. Looking ahead to Sunday, how do you approach this if you're the Patriots? Do you scoreboard watch as I've suggested? Do you play everybody? Do you sit everybody? Where are you at in terms of how they should look at this?
I think you start off by playing everyone and take your foot off the gas in the second half. You definitely scoreboard watch, but I mean, seems pretty clear to me that you're not going to get the number one seed and the Chargers are going to just rest everyone and the Broncos are going to win. So then it depends on, all right, would you rather the 2 or the 3? I don't think the Dolphins are a pushover. Quinn Ewers is actually playing pretty well, and they have a really good running back. But I think this is a game where, like, for some of the injured players, if you can get them back and get them some snaps before the playoffs, is ideal. And I'm talking Milton Williams and Will Campbell. Just get their feet wet. For me, it's stay healthy. If you can get out to a lead like you did against the Jets and rest everyone in the third quarter, that would be ideal. But I think you start everyone who's healthy and sort of take them out of the game in the second half. And, for Mike Vrabel and them, they have to sort of deduce, all right, do we care if we have the number 2 or the number 3? Does that matter? I would argue health matters over everything. So if everything's going well, maybe it happens like the Jets, that would be ideal. But just, I don't know. I don't want to see Drake make in there for 4 quarters.
All right, as the takies roll on here, Mark Daniels of Mass Live joining us. And Mark, your worst take of 2025 was what?
I have 2. I'm just going to give you both. Headline reads, Demario Douglas looks like next great Patriots slot receiver. I really thought with Josh McDaniels, he would be number 1 or number 2. And I wrote that. I was pretty verbal about that as well. I'm in a dynasty football league. I traded a 3rd-round pick for Pop Douglas thinking he was the next Wes Welker. I was pretty wrong about that. And then my other one would be my prediction was Patriots 8-9, and I wrote Patriots should get back to respectability under Mike Vrabel. They'll be better than last season. However, they lack elite talent needed to make a playoff run. So kind of swung and missed on the past record and who the top receiver will be. So that's mine.
I'm going with Pop Douglas. I think everyone was in the 8-9, 9-8. I understand it. There are takes that look bad, but you know how you got there. And Pop Douglas, was their best receiver in training camp for a few weeks.
Yeah,
he was.
I'm learning more now. Certain players are just like Drake May wasn't blowing anybody away. Now he's going to be MVP of the league. Though, Mark, did you hear our fellow Mark knocked out Drake May from the MVP race about 17 days ago?
I did not. That's a good one.
Emphatically.
It's in the clubhouse with Rafael Devers taking a big step forward leadership, according to your colleague, Chris Cotillo. So the Takies are off and running, but you have made it. I appreciate you stopping by. I will see you in a couple hours. All right?
Sounds good, guys.
Thanks,
Have fun.
Mark. Happy New Year. I also have to
Happy New Year.
because Mark said it. I was reminded that was another one that I was hot on Pop Douglas this year. High. There's even a headline that I had on one of the takes from one of the shows. I thought he was going to be huge. I thought he was going to be their best receiver.
That was like all summer.
Yeah,
Pop Douglas.
Yeah,
talk.
that was. I can't believe I didn't think of that. I think I blocked it. I blacked it out.
Well, I don't think you were wrong. I mean, it started.
No, I was wrong.
It started tough. It was like he was a ghost, but he eventually started making plays for this team. I don't think it's quite as bad now.
How about this slot receiver next season? Would you pick Pop Douglas or Efton Chisholm?
Efton Chisholm. I just haven't seen it. I don't think they believe in Douglas. He hasn't been there. I haven't seen it.
I'll tell you this.
I don't know.
In the spirit of Chris Cotillo, I'm going to have 26 Patriots predictions for 2026 coming out tomorrow in the Boston Herald.
I love it. Looking forward to that.
A Pop Douglas trade is in there.
Okay.
There you go. Phil Perry, NBC Sports Boston, making a grand entrance to the Takies here after the break. We have some good contenders in here, but I don't know. I feel like Phil's got something up his sleeve.
Let's see what Phil has. That's coming up next. Mark Dondero, Andrew Callahan, Toucher and Hardy, 98.5, the Sports Hub.
Toucher and Hardy, 98.
Sports Hub headlines. Presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
The Celtics enjoyed a big second half last night as the C's took down the Jazz 129-119 in Utah. Jaylen Brown, 23 points, 10 assists. Derek White had 27 points, 7 blocks as Boston ended 2025 on a high note. C's will be back on the floor New Year's Day night in Sacramento to face the Kings. Patriots receiver Stefon Diggs was charged on Tuesday with felony strangulation or suffocation and misdemeanor assault and battery stemming from an alleged incident on December 2nd. The Patriots have since released a statement in which they said, quote, "The New England Patriots are aware of the accusations that have been made regarding Stefon Diggs. Stefon has informed the organization that he categorically denies the allegations. We support Stefon," close quote. Mike Vrabel is scheduled to speak to the media around 1:10 p.m. today in Foxborough. Meanwhile, other news involving the Diggs family. Stefon's brother, Trayvon Diggs, was released by the Dallas Cowboys on Tuesday. The two-time Pro Bowl cornerback will be a free agent if he isn't claimed off of waivers. And the college football playoff resumes tonight with Miami taking on Ohio State. That's in the Cotton Bowl. Ohio State is a 9.5-point favorite. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Awaken 180. Happy holidays from Paige and the entire Awaken 180 team, wishing you a season full of joy, good health, and happiness in the new year. I'm Mark Dondero for Boston's Home for Sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub. Next update, 30 minutes.
Sunday, the AFC East champion New England Patriots have a chance to clinch the number 1 seed in the conference when they face the Miami Dolphins at Gillette Stadium. On your home for postseason Patriots football. 98.5 The Sports Hub. Fred, what's it like to work with Hardy and Wally?
What a golden ticket I've gotten.
There you have it. Toucher and Hardy resumes on the Sports Hub.
The year's almost over. Now it's time to reflect on all of the dumb shit. It's time to admit who had the worst sports takes broadcast to your ears. Time now for the Takeys. Award season is here. It's here. It's time for the Takeys.
Big thanks to producer Ryan Garvin, who authored that piece of content gold going into 2026.
Oh, that's great stuff.
Well done. I don't know when or how you did it, but
like 5:30 this morning.
Yeah, that's pretty good. We're appreciative of that. We are appreciative of Phil Perry taking the time to join us and participate in the Takeys. And Phil, first of all, good morning. Happy New Year. How are you?
Good morning, boys. Happy New Year.
Thanks for taking a couple minutes here. Before we get to your worst take of 2025, Phil, let me just ask you. I've been of the thought or the line of thinking that this is an important MVP race, specifically for Drake May, because I think that based on some of the trends in the NFL and some of the quarterbacks that have had a good start, a strong start, and then sort of fell off a little bit, winning the MVP would really solidify and validate Drake May as not just a hot start. He would be in the Mahomes, in the Lamar Jackson category on that level if he wins the MVP. Is that line of thinking a little misguided in thinking that the MVP is that important for a player like Drake May?
Well, I'm just not sure it's going to impact his psyche in that way, in the fashion that he would be able to avoid. I think the negative situations you're thinking of are guys like, Carson Wentz, right, who starts out gangbusters to his career and, ends up falling off a cliff. Is Drake May going to be able to avoid that if that's, what's in his future, if that's what the fates hold for him, just because he wins the MVP? I'm not sure. I guess it could give him a level of confidence that would help stave off that kind of backslide. I don't see that coming, and maybe that's naive. Maybe people in Philadelphia felt the same way about Wentz, 10 years ago or whenever that was. So I think he's deserving of it. I put it that way. He is better than or he has exceeded Matthew Stafford in just about every statistical category other than touchdowns. Stafford's accounted for 42. May's accounted for 34 when you include all the rushing stuff. And if I'm a voter, which I'm not, if I'm a voter, I'm going beyond the difference of 8 touchdowns in looking at who's deserving of this award, and I would give it to May.
Phil, what are we missing in the MVP conversation? Because I know you and I are on the Drake May train. You might even be the conductor. I'm in the second car. We've been there since before he became a Patriot. But, I mean, when we get into all the EPAs and the total touchdowns and this and that and the context and the schedule and who you're playing with, like, I feel like we've gone through that the last month. What's a data point, a piece of the conversation you feel like has not been repeated enough that's kind of central to deciding who is the MVP?
Well, I think the one thing that has been pointed out, and I think it is fair on both sides, is that there are team-wide elements that impact, who the award should go to. And for May, on the positive end for him, I think helping him toward the award is the fact that his surrounding cast, when compared to Stafford's, isn't as talented. Now, Stafford, what he has going in his favor is his schedule has been more difficult. So if you're looking at it and you're saying, yeah, Perry, I know it, the only thing that he's better than May at in 2025 is the number of touchdowns that he's accounted for. But look at the defenses he's had to go against and look at the defenses Drake May has had to go against. And, depending on where you look, you could make the case that May has had the easiest slate of any quarterback in terms of the schedule he's faced this year. I believe Patriots' defensive opponents this year have allowed more EPA per play than any quarterback in football in terms of the schedule. So I look at those two things and I sort of cancel them out. I think the one thing that maybe we're not looking at, because, I talk a lot to our guy, Albert Breer, and I was on with him again last night on Early Edition. And one thing that he always sort of notes when he's comparing May versus Stafford is he thinks May's the most valuable, but he thinks Stafford has played the position the best or is playing it at the highest level. And I won't pretend to have watched every snap of Matthew Stafford. I just look at something like completion percentage over expectation. I know that's something you look at too, Andrew, and there are, different ways of calculating it. Some don't include the GPS tracking stuff. Next Gen Stats, they do include the GPS tracking stuff. But he is, by any measure, the most accurate quarterback in football. And I think that is such a critical component to playing that position that he is that to me puts him over the top, regardless of all the other numbers where he is ahead of Stafford for the most part.
And this isn't really an MVP question, Phil, specific to the race this year, but I'm just curious because you're a guy that's obviously covered the league for a long time. You've seen a lot of MVP performances and been a part of MVP discussions and all of those things. Do you think the award personally should be more about the most valuable player or the player that has the best statistics, that's played the position the best? Which should be the lean if you're talking about the MVP award?
I'm a words have meaning guy, Mark. Mm-hmm. So I do look at that word valuable, and I value it.
Okay.
If it was the most outstanding player, right? The Heisman Trophy is most outstanding. That's the word they use. That's a different word. That's a different conversation. So the MVP award, to me, that you do have to value the language involved there. We are language guys at the end of the day, and I think you should be looking at regardless of what your profession is, whether you're on the radio or you're a writer, you should be looking at the words involved in that particular award and try to hold true to those as best you can. And I think our guy Tom Curran, he had an MVP vote up until this year. He has sort of abdicated his vote for various reasons, but last year was his last year voting for MVP. And I thought he did something that I might have done had I had a vote, which was he split the first team All-Pro quarterback vote and the MVP vote. He thought Josh Allen, because of the situation around Allen and it not being as impressive as the situation around Lamar Jackson, he thought Allen was most valuable, but he thought Jackson had the best season statistically, or maybe the most impressive season. And so Lamar Jackson was his first team All-Pro and Josh Allen was his MVP. And so I totally understand that because to me that word valuable matters.
I have a lot of questions about Tom abdicating his MVP vote right before a Patriots quarterback becomes MVP once again, which fair, none of us saw. I just want to emphasize, though, Phil Perry, philosopher, pro meaning with us, also of NBC Sports Boston. Words are good. We should stick to them. Speaking of words, I don't want your best words. I want your worst words of 2025. Welcome to the Takeys. What do you got?
I think I have to go with it, and there are so many guys. I mean, there's so many bad ones. It really is hard to choose, but you try to play the hits, and playing the hits means going back to the quarterback conversation and thinking about Drake May. And Andrew is right. I think I am wearing that small little conductor hat that, maybe at the time it was Carolina blue. Before the draft, I called him the best quarterback prospect in the draft. And so I've been a big fan of his game even before he became a member of the Patriots. But before this season, in May, when there was not a whole lot of football to talk about, I was Mr. Rankings lists. And I think we probably talked about it on our air, you and I, Andrew. Mm-hmm. I had Drake May ranked as the 14th best quarterback for 2025. Right,
That's
I thought he would end up somewhere in the middle of that pack. That is brutal, but it gets even worse. Some of the names I had ahead of Drake May in that conversation included one Geno Smith and one Kyler Murray. That's bad. I think that's about as bad as it gets. Yeah, and it makes it worse because again, I thought he was a good player. And so it's one of those, stick to your guns. It's okay to be a year too early rather than a year too late. That's a tough one to look back on and say Geno Smith greater than Drake May.
It's rough.
I said this on my podcast, and it made Mike Giardi recoil, but that's just because he's getting old and frail. The lesson there, Phil, is when you put your balls on the table, you just keep them there. You know what? You make a statement. Drake May is that good, better than those guys. I will also be silent on what I was saying because I remember that segment very specifically, and I think we did it a couple of times because Burt Breer accosted is strong, but had strong words about Jared Goff's better than him and this and that. 14th, I think was fair then, but Geno Smith ahead of Drake May. That, speaking of words that matter, those are the words. Drake May is a worse quarterback than Geno Smith is how I'm going to phrase it in the meaning I'm going to choose from your worst take of 2025.
I'm feeling shame. I'm feeling lots of shame right now as we're talking about this.
That means this is a successful takey.
You're actually doing Phil a favor because that could go a long way in maybe helping him win, take home a takey if you phrase it that way.
We'll see. We have Doug Kyde coming up next. Probably our most even-keeled guest, so he's a long odds favorite to win this. But Phil, you were near the top. I appreciate you taking some time, even more time than I promised you, and I'll see you down in Foxborough in a couple hours.
Thanks, Phil.
Sounds great, guys. Talk to you soon.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
That was a good one. That was
Geno Smith ahead of Drake
That's right.
May.
Just especially when you fire off that name, Geno Smith. I'm not going to say what I said after week 1, but that was tough.
Whoa, what? What did you say?
It's not really a take, but I was demonstrative at how.
No.
Well, I'm just saying it was very evident to me that after week 1 in that game against the Raiders, that Geno Smith severely outplayed Drake May in that game, in that one game.
Oh, he did.
So I was not in a good mood.
That's fair.
I was not in a good. That's why it's not a part of the takeys.
No, that's what happened.
But I was just not in a good mood. And the take ended. Geno Smith was awful. He ended up pretty bad this year.
That is the sky is blue and water is wet take. That's just what happened. Yeah. Don't worry about that.
So,
a quick recap before we get to Doug. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Stefon Diggs because obviously this is the news of the day and what could happen and whether he plays and whether he doesn't. What does that mean? In addition to all the details of the case, I'm going to eliminate a couple of takes. Or do you want to keep them all together before we get to the end of the show?
If you want to recap some of them and then we can knock a couple off.
Okay.
As an elimination.
Here we go. All the takes. My worst take of 2025, and there were some nominees. The Celtics are a lock for their under. 40.5 wins, under. I said, give me 35, 36, 37, 38. They're on pace to win 51, third seed in the East. Mark knocked out Drake May from the MVP race 17 days ago. Said, forget about it. Lost to the Bills. He's out of there. Barth, on Labor Day, drinking, as all of us were. The Jets game is a toss-up for the Patriots. The Jets! Matt Doloff, he's going to be waiting a while for the Super Bowl that he thought was coming in February. Vikings, Bengals. Matt, I need Larry in the car to call in about that with some of those clips. See what Larry thinks about Matt's take. Charlie,
crazy.
Charlie called in. He said, you know what? Shame me. I wanted Jim Harbaugh over Mike Vrabel after 1 week. I don't think that's crazy. They might meet in the playoffs. Jim Harbaugh's a good coach. Mm-hmm. Chris Cotillo, though, regrets this one. Rafael Devers is going to take a step forward with his leadership in the 2025 season. Rafael Devers, no longer a Red Sox, partly because of locker room issues. Ian Brown followed that up with Tristan Casas going to be a, quote, monster this season, hitting upwards of 40 home runs. Waiting on a lot of those home runs. RJ called in. He wanted Josh McDaniels to run a Cam Newton offense for Drake May, who has the MVP trophy on the way, and the second best passing offense in the league by EPA. Mark Daniels anointed Pop Douglas the next Wes Welker in this offense, the next great slot receiver. Just blew right by Troy Brown, blew right by Danny Amendola, just said Wes Welker, here you go. And Phil Perry coming in, ranking Geno Smith ahead of Drake May back in May when he had Drake May as the 14th best quarterback in the league. May no lower than what, 6th? If you were to ask anybody watching football and taking it seriously, is he top 5 now definitively?
Oh, he's definitively top 5.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah.
So those are the taking nominees. We got one more from Doug Kite coming up, my guy over the Boston Herald. And then we're going to announce a winner.
All right. The drama builds. Mark Dondero, Andrew Callahan, Toucher, and Hardy. Doug Kite coming up from the Boston Herald. This is 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Stay tuned for more Toucher and Hardy on Sports.
And I have had many offers to become an insider.
All right, back here, Toucher and Hardy, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Mark Dondero, Andrew Callahan of the Boston Herald in today for the guys. Takeys, wildly successful Takeys rolls on. Pleased to be joined now by Doug Kyde of the Boston Herald, Andrew's partner and professional partner. Would that be an inaccurate way of saying it, or
no? I think that's a better way than just partner in there. That leaves some interpretation. Doug and I have not talked about that. My wife and I have not talked about that.
Yeah, that's okay. Doug, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Andrew.
Let's start with this. Obviously, a lot to discuss with the Patriots. But just I'm just curious from a personal standpoint. I know you've covered the team for a lot of years. You've seen a lot in what you've seen in the NFL. But what was your reaction when you first heard that this story was real and Stefon Diggs was in some trouble and we heard all the details? How did you react to what you were taking in?
I mean, obviously, just disappointing news. It's sad news, and we'll see how the whole story shakes out. We'll see what happens at the arraignment. But, I mean, obviously, it's bigger than football. But from a football standpoint, this has been such a fun season for the Patriots, and this does put a damper on it. It would have to, especially the timing of it and everything. Diggs has been such a good leader on and off the field for the Patriots, and this obviously puts a major damper on that as well. So I think that was just one of my initial reactions is it's sad news, and it happens during what was, before this, a very, very fun Patriots season.
So we were asking Mark Daniels earlier about what we want to hear from Mike Vrabel, and I've said repeatedly, I hope he expounds a little bit upon this statement. I understand he's kind of boxed in from a PR standpoint. Less is more, but when a player that they propped up, a player that broke down the huddle in the locker room in Baltimore, leader Stefon Diggs, is accused of strangling a woman, I hope the head coach, who has talked about kind of a people-first culture, will speak to someone who may have been a victim here. The thing I'm also curious about is just where his standing is in the locker room, because this is difficult, I would imagine, for teammates. And besides Vrabel, whether it's from Diggs or from May or from guys that we're going to talk to, what are you curious most to hear about, or what do you think might be most telling here when you and I get down to Foxborough here in a couple of hours?
Well, I think it'd be telling to ask Vrabel and ask players if they are expecting Diggs to be available this week. Like, if that's the expectation, or if they are expecting him to be placed on the commissioner's exempt list, if they have to completely play it by ear. And obviously that's going to be a question for Vrabel more than his teammates. His teammates are obviously in a very difficult position here, where they obviously have a strong relationship with Diggs. A lot of those guys do. So they're not going to want to speak poorly against him, but they also are in the same situation as a lot of us, I would think, where they're still waiting to hear more information about this whole situation. But I'm hopeful that Vrabel handles this less like Bill Belichick and maybe a little bit more sensitively. And that would be my expectation. But obviously he can cite the statement that the Patriots put out yesterday, in which they said that they do support Stefon Diggs, which I thought was a strong statement to put out there.
One of the headlines of this season overall has been Stefon Diggs, the leader. He's been a leader for this team in his position. And obviously there are other leaders. And I'm just wondering, Doug, in this scenario, it's hard for Stefon Diggs to operate in the same way that he's been operating from a leadership perspective. So who else would you turn to if you're Mike Vrabel, if you're looking from a locker room perspective to really step up and help with the leadership while Diggs is dealing with this situation?
Well, off the field, I think Matt Collins can continue to step up as a leader, but I think that it hurts the wide receiver core overall that he's on injured reserve from a leadership standpoint, because Diggs and Hollins have been such good, strong veteran leaders in that group. I think that's kind of helped settle Kayshon Boutte, Demario Douglas, the two rookies in that room. So they all have to stay as mature as they've been all season. And obviously there's only a few games left here for them to do that. But I think that could be difficult when things are kind of thrown in upheaval like this with the Diggs situation and Hollins on IR. But there are other good veteran leaders in the offense. Hunter Henry's a captain, obviously. Austin Hooper's been around for a long time. Garrett Bradbury, Morgan Moses on the offensive line. So they've got a pretty deep group of leaders on offense. but that wide receiver core will be tested in a number of different ways, leadership among them, because of this incident.
So you know this, and we said it earlier, but it bears repeating. Stefon Diggs this season has spoken every Wednesday. It's right as soon as the locker room opens to reporters, which happens for 45 minutes every day that they practice. That's the league rules. And he chooses to get this kind of out of the way early, and he's usually, pretty thoughtful and not verbose, but, a step below. He speaks a lot and takes a lot of questions. I don't expect him to take a lot of questions today if he speaks at all. That'll be up to him and the PR staff. But, we talked about what we want to hear from Mike Vrabel. What are the questions as you're preparing, as I will be soon, to talk to Stefon Diggs if and when we get in there and he's available for a couple of minutes, like top of the list, need and want to ask this?
I mean, first of all, would just be his interpretation of events, what he believes happened, since he's completely denied the situation. And then obviously just what he's heard from the league, what his expectations are. It's kind of, we were in a very similar situation last year with Jabril Peppers. And yeah, like you said, I don't expect Stefon Diggs to talk for 10 minutes like he usually does on Wednesdays. But it would be nice at least for him to have some sort of statement prepared and maybe time to answer a few questions from us as well.
Obviously we don't want to speculate too much, but I'm just curious, Doug, if there's any, or if you could ascertain any indication as to whether or not, or I guess when we may hear, if any action were to take place, either from the league or the team, if they were going to sit down Steph Diggs or put him on a list or do anything where he would not be able to play. Do you know when that could take place, if it were to take place?
So Jabril Peppers, I believe, was placed on the commissioner's exempt list 4 days after he was accused last year. So that's a really short timeline. And I don't know when that timeline starts for this event. I would assume yesterday, since that's when all of the information came out. So if he is placed on the commissioner's exempt list, it could come very soon this week. I have no idea, obviously, what the NFL will decide, what Roger Goodell will decide. But just purely looking at the Peppers case and now the Stefon Diggs case, these feel very similar. And if Peppers was placed on the commissioner's exempt list, I don't know what the reason for the NFL to not put Stefon Diggs on the commissioner's exempt list would be. I don't know if it would be the timing of the season, if they have any other information themselves, if Stefon Diggs has presented them with any evidence. But just purely on the surface, the Peppers and Diggs situations look extremely similar right now.
Yeah, and that was a Wednesday back then with Jabril Peppers, which that news broke on a Saturday, as you mentioned, 4 days later. 4 days after this, we'll put it on a Friday. And that's the hard part about predicting this, right? Like, those cases are similar, but the NFL is not beholden to any precedent. Like, it's only beholden to its own whims and decisions. And so for me, pure speculation here, if I'm them delaying a decision, there's always the late Friday news dump. You know what I mean? And I don't know what they will do. Mark and I have discussed that I think their motivations are always pertain and tied to their bottom line and the image, not necessarily the evidence at hand. And frankly, if there's not a lot of evidence, which is, besides the allegations in the police report, this could go any number of ways. But the bottom line to me, and I don't know if you have any final thoughts on this before we get to the worst take of the year from you, the ball is in the Patriots' court, which it seems from their statement they intend to let him play, but we will hear officially from Mike Vrabel today, as well as the NFL. And if he goes to the commissioner's exempt list, there's nothing they can do, and this is obviously a big hit to their playoff hopes.
Yeah, and no, it's obviously, for sure, the NFL usually focuses on its bottom line, and they would probably prefer the Patriots as the number 2 seed to have as competitive of a roster as possible. But they also know that they'll be taking hits from a PR standpoint if they do let Stefon Diggs play, and depending on who the Patriots' opponent is and all of that. So I'm in wait-and-see mode. Like you said, 4 days would be Friday. I think that would make it a little bit difficult on the Patriots to wait that long, but certainly they've done things like that in the past, and the Patriots will have to have a couple of different plans for this game against the Dolphins, whether to have Stefon Diggs available and whether they're not going to have him available. So, yeah, it's really a crap situation for the Patriots right now.
All right, Doug Kyde of the Boston Herald joining us. This is me talking here, but based on what Doug said and just thinking about the whole situation, it does feel, and I have no idea, but it does feel like the timing, the player will impact how the NFL goes for how they think about this. That's just me, but that's the way it feels like based on what they've done in the past. I have no idea. All right, the Takies. Welcome, Doug. Thank you for joining us. This is it, the biggest, worst take that you had in 2025 was what?
Well, 20 days ago, 20 days to the date, I wrote that the Patriots wide receiver core is not a weakness. And as we head into the playoffs now with questions about Stefon Diggs, Matt Collins on injured reserve, there's a world in which the Patriots wide receivers for the playoffs could be Kayshon Boutte, Kyle Williams, Demario Douglas, Efton Chisholm, Jeremiah Webb, and John Giles. So I think that qualifies. That would easily be the weakest position group on the Patriots in the playoffs and the biggest concern. So I think I was a little bit early with that take 20 days ago.
All right, but injuries and charges, not
Yeah,
entirely
but
your fault.
you know what though? I feel when it's recent, I feel it's added strength to the bad take because it's so real.
Yeah.
You can't get that wrong so recently. That was my problem with my take.
I was going to say the only person who's had a more recent
Yeah.
nominee for the Takeys was you. December 14th, Drake May is out of the MVP race.
Well, I mean, I believe I predicted Patriots for 9 wins, but that's a pretty boring one.
Yeah.
I think everyone was around that range.
Okay.
Doug, how about this? What was my worst take of 2025? You were exposed to these more than anybody
man.
aside from like podcast listeners, and there's no nice talking your way out of this. I can take it. What was my worst take? Yeah.
Your worst take. I mean, the Kayshon Boutte take looked pretty bad at the beginning of the season.
What was the Kayshon Boutte take?
They should trade him.
They should trade him.
They were entertaining it around the draft,
Well,
which is a report
you
no
were
one
just kind of
remembers.
out on Boutte in general.
Okay.
I feel like
Yeah.
I don't know if it was one specific take. It was like that was deeply rooted in you. So
I didn't get
I think
it.
that. Yeah. And obviously, Boutte didn't finish the season as strong as he began it, but he was a very valuable member of the wide receiver core and could be the number one receiver for the playoffs. So thank God they didn't follow your advice and trade him or get rid of him.
Thank God a lot of people don't follow my advice.
See, I'm glad he brought that to light because I didn't know that. I didn't realize how
Yeah.
down you were on Boutte specifically, and the way he started the season was notable.
Oh my God! Yeah, I ate literal fake crow on my podcast as a way to make up for the Kayshon Boutte. He should be traded. I don't get it. I said it during the season. 1 or 2 catches per practice and training camp. And granted, when those 1 or 2 catches are A, touchdowns, or B, for 40 yards downfield, mossing a poor little cornerback, those are pretty valuable catches. So Kayshon Boutte slowed down, which is why I omitted it. Instead, went with the Celtics take. But that was in my annual column of what I got wrong about the Patriots. And the Kayshon Boutte should be traded. They should move forward with this. Is at the top of the list. So that column, I'm sure, will be plenty long next year. But I'm glad Doug brought that up.
Is Doug involved in your 26
predictions
column? Or
no,
is that just
this
you?
is
Okay.
peeling back the curtain. Something we have to file by like 3:00 today for print deadline because newspapers in 2025 are slowing down as opposed to speeding up.
Okay.
So I don't have time to digest fully Mike Vrabel's comments in about 90 minutes and spit out a column. So we're going to do some predictions, and I'll save my good stuff for Friday and the Friday 5.
Love it. All right. Doug, Happy New Year. Thanks so much for joining us and for taking the time here on the Takeys.
Absolutely. Happy New Year, guys. Andrew, I'm sure I'll see you soon.
See you, man.
All right, so there goes Doug Kide. Another strong candidate here, and we'll see what happens. When we get back, we will compile the best worst takes of 2025, and we'll come up with a winner. Do we have time to take Riz in We'll take Riz real quick in East Providence, who just wants to jump in. Hey, Riz.
Hey, what's good, man? First and foremost, shout out to the Twitch YouTube fan. You're having a blast on there, fellas. Callahan, just want to wish you a Happy New Year, man. Shout out to your new baby, little girl. Jorge in the background doing his thing with his ponytail. I think that's him looking like Elliot from the commercials and stuff. And Dondero, man, usually I give you a hard time, especially with your spit take from earlier. But you know what, man? You've been grinding all week. Actually, the last 2 weeks, though, you've been doing a great job, man. I ain't got no hate for you today. But you know what? Do your thing. Happy New Year's, man. And I appreciate hearing you on the radio these last 2 weeks, man.
All right. Well, Happy New Year.
Happy
Thanks
New
for the
Year.
words, Riz.
So glad we took that call, Riz.
Yeah.
Appreciate
We
the
needed that
kind
one.
words.
Glad you said it was a ponytail and not a man bun.
Especially the
Very
ponytail
important.
comment. I wasn't ready for that. All
All
right.
hair, man.
That was the best of our show, which has been dedicated to the worst of Boston sports media in 2025.
There you go.
Really nice, cozy note. And that will be the last nice thing we hear because we're getting to all the worst takes.
All the worst takes, and a winner of the worst take of 2025 will be unveiled. Toucher and Hardy, Mark Dondero, Andrew Callahan, 98.5, The Sports Hub.
Essential Sports Hub.
comes to the show, Hardy thinks the same way you do.
Nothing happened.
He's got the same questions.
Where is the story?
And the same opinions.
Boring.
And he's back with Fred on the Sports Hub. We know what you're thinking. What could I possibly have missed from the show? It's time for The Stack on Toucher and Hardy.
All right, back here, Toucher and Hardy, Mark Dondero, Andrew Callahan, 98.5. Happy New Year. We've enjoyed the takies all morning long. The after party is going to be lit with everything going on. I'm sure we'll have tons of time to enjoy an after party.
Some munchkins.
Yeah.
Shots of espresso.
There you go.
Maybe a nap.
Correct. But with that, we've been looking forward to this. We are going to recap all of the worst takes of 2025 in the form of a montage.
I think the Crafts are going to stick with Gerard Mayo. I felt pretty confident in that.
I, too, came on here and emphatically declared that the Patriots would not move on from Gerard Mayo.
I thought Will Campbell's wingspan was too big of a risk.
After the Buffalo game at Gillette Stadium, I came out and declared with conviction the MVP race was over. Drake May had no chance.
We're arguing about the Celtics. I said they were a lock, a 37-38 win team.
I called the Jets and Giants games. I believe the term I used was toss-ups.
I think the run defense is going to suck, specifically because of Milton Williams. I had the Minnesota Vikings in the Super Bowl against the Cincinnati Bengals. I said, and I quote, I'm a believer in J.J. McCarthy.
Drum roll, please. Rafael Devers takes a major step forward in terms of leadership for this team.
Oh, boy. I mean, I really bought into all the Tristan Casas is going to be a monster hype, that he was going to hit between 30 and 40 home runs, and that just he got off to a disastrous start.
Headline reads, Demario Douglas looks like next great Patriots slot receiver. I'm in a dynasty football league. I traded a third-round pick for Pop Douglas thinking he was the next Wes Welker.
I had Drake May ranked as the 14th best quarterback for 2025. That is brutal, but it gets even worse. Some of the names I had ahead of Drake May in that conversation included one Geno Smith and one Kyler Murray. That's bad.
20 days ago, I wrote that the Patriots wide receiver core is not a weakness. As we head into the playoffs now with questions about Stefon Diggs, Matt Collins on injured reserve, there's a world in which the Patriots wide receivers for the playoffs could be Kayshon Boutte, Kyle Williams, Demario Douglas, Efton Chisholm, Jeremiah Webb, and John Giles.
That's crazy.
Well done, everybody.
Big thanks to Andrew Callahan for orchestrating all of our guests and the takies and everything associated with this award show that we were able to bring to you this morning. Now it's time to hand out the awards, and we'll do it individually. You guys are going to jump in, Ryan and George?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so my takey goes to, and you can tell by my reaction, I have to give it to Chris Cotillo just because of the way the Rafael Devers situation unfolded, the way he worded the column and the take back whenever he had this take. To say specifically that he was going to take a step forward in leadership, I mean, to be that specific is so perfect. And how it ended, Henry traveling, the giving him away for nothing, a player of that caliber, unbelievable, so bad. There is the takey from me, Chris Cotillo. Well done.
Chris was a runner-up for me.
Okay.
But that's good. And first of all, it goes without saying, these are our friends. Come on the show. Volunteer their takes.
Thank you so
much. We celebrate the worst of Boston sports media, who some of you think we are just the worst in general. So this was specifically for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly covered myself in glory with about 3 or 4 worst takes. Doug brought up another one. I think the Patriots should trade Kayshon Boutte. He shoves 100 yards and a touchdown down my throat in week 1. Wasted no time, and then I ate Little Crow on my podcast. But this is not because we're co-hosting the show today. The recency of Drake May losing the MVP 17 days ago. My guy, Mark Dondero, come on down. The takey for worst Boston sports take in 2025. This goes to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, because now I have the pleasure and honor of posting that take and saying it took home a takey.
Yes. We got to get trophies next year.
All right.
Because we're going to be back.
That's
New
correct.
Year's Eve.
Yeah, you know it. Rye, give us your winner for a takey in 2025. Worst takes.
I really have been struggling this one, like during the breaks. I was such a fan of Matt Doloff coming in here and saying the run defense is going to suck because of Milton Williams, when in fact it's been all world because of Milton Williams. But just listening back to that recap, I am going to award my 2025 takey to our good friend Phil Perry, not only for having Drake May as a, sub 15 quarterback, but to actually speak into a microphone. And I get it. Time of year sometimes dictates. You got to think a little outside the box, but to actually think to yourself, Geno Smith is going to be a better quarterback than Drake May. That's a tough one. So I am going to award my 2025 takey to our good friend Phil Perry.
It was outstanding, the fact that he specified Geno Smith and Kyler Murray were ahead of Drake May on the list.
Geno's a tough one.
He didn't have to volunteer that either.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah, it's a bravery. Not as brave as Matt coming in studio 2 hours before he hosted
and
the show.
I really do. I had like a strong reaction when he said Milton Williams, and I agreed with him. I also had the Bengals in the Super Bowl too. I'm sorry, Matt, but I will go to Phil.
Bengals.
The people's champ.
Too. All right, George.
All right, excellent. To piggyback off of producer Ryan Garvin's point, I had to go Geno Smith. I had to that Phil Perry take. I remember succinctly in the afternoon show with Felger and Maz, they spearheaded this kind of conversation throughout that week. They sprinkled in the whole Geno Smith over Drake May take. Right now, who would you take? And I remember agreeing with Felger. Felger was the one, that trolley MF. He was the one. He was the one with a sane brain advocating for Drake May. I was just like, oh my goodness. He must be trolling us here too again. Here he is leading them down to pick Geno Smith, and they bought it. They couldn't have enough of Geno Smith, especially after the first week. They felt like they were committed after that and vindicated. Nope. As we can see now by the culmination of this year, this great award show, 2025 Takeys, Phil Perry, Geno Smith, that take. Horrendous take.
I guess Phil takes home the big award.
I think he does.
Yeah.
I think I need to pick something up for him on my way
that's
down
right,
to
a gift
Foxborough
card
in
or
a couple
something.
of hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got to let him know at least that he took home the big one.
I'm telling you, if he had not volunteered the two players, and Kyler Murray's bad, but there's just something so horrible about thinking Geno Smith is going to be better. I think that ended up clinching it for me.
He ranked Drake May, who is going to get an award for doing his job better than anyone else in football who puts on a helmet, behind someone who is going to lose their job this season when the Raiders make the number 1 draft pick, and it will be Francisco Mendoza, the Indiana quarterback, who's playing tomorrow. Watch if you can. College football playoff is here. The point is, that drop, that aged not as fast as yours, but worse. Like, this milk was spoiled, and then it curdled, and whatever the hell happens after milk curdles is where Phil's steak is. It continues to sit.
I will be honest, how you say some things matters, too. That's why mine was so bad. It was so emphatic.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in, because I didn't see the clip, but it's a lock that the Celtics, I mean, that's the word that did it for me, and that's why I liked yours. How you said, I'd be interested. So you said lock on the air.
Yeah.
Okay.
Arguing with Felger and Michael Holley on a BST.
On the Celtics.
Didn't like the roster.
Yeah.
You know
Jalen's
what?
good, the fit, this and that.
I'm sorry, because you were talking about the BST. Honorable mention, and he did explain it last week, but honorable mention to Michael Holley. And I know we all said...
6 wins.
A lot of us were...
Yes.
Who said that?
But it wasn't so much...
Michael Holley.
Everybody, except for Tim McCone, honestly, had, single... But for Michael Holley, as we all consume programming on NBC Sports Boston, to get the constant reminder of, and I'm just worried that this team is going to absolutely suck. I must have heard Michael Holley say the Patriots are going to absolutely suck 300 times this year, as they've already locked up every single standing you could. So an honorable mention to Michael Holley.
Michael
I'm
Holley,
sure
who also
he would
came
submit that one.
on my podcast and predicted Mike Vrabel Coach of the Year, which he hates when I remind him because I begged him for a hot take. I did him a favor. Left to his own devices, Michael Holley steers into a crash, like picking the Patriots to win 6 wins. They're already won more than double that. Michael Holley, when I bait you, I'm taking you somewhere good, buddy. I'm taking you to the promised land of good hot takes. Mike Vrabel should be Coach of the Year. Drake May should win MVP. The Patriots should scoreboard watch on Sunday. I think that's what we learned here today. Around the worst takes in 2025.
Wow. Okay, what a show, what a day, and still a lot of day left here as you're going to be in Foxborough, covering what will be a very significant day with the Patriots for this season and all the things going on with Stefon Diggs, and we look forward to that coverage, Andrew. As always, a pleasure.
Happy New Year. Enjoy that
Good
wedding
to be with
tonight.
you. That's right. We'll see what happens. And Happy New Year to you. Thanks for joining us. Toucher and Hardy, Mark Dondero, Andrew Callahan, Rye, thanks for everything. Great to be with you. 98.5, the Sports Hub.
Talk to you tomorrow. Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
Gambling